NASCAR on Fox welcomes you to Dover, Delaware. Get ready to roll 400 miles here. Tony Stewart hoping to snap out of his slump after skydiving this week with his dad. Matt Kenseth, the former champ, can Ford get into victory lane? They have been unable to in the first 11 races. And Dale Earnhardt Jr. starting 27th, equaling the furthest back he has started this year. And we'll be watching Jeff Burton, Jeff Gordon, and our own Jeff Hammond on the Verizon checklist, things we should watch closely. Yeah, today we're going to be looking and saying, how do you wind up winning this race? And this is what it's going to take, folks. If you want to wind up winning here at Dover, you've got to be able to control the landing of this race car. When it gets down in this corner, you need for it to settle down so you can put the power down through the center and really get yourself launched up off of these corners, down these straightaways. Today, the guy who can do this the best, well, he's going to wind up going to victory lane. That's as simple as I know how to make it. Now, that's in practice there, so it's a little bit, you have more space, more room. Other cars get in there, it's a different story. It's going to be a little bit more congested when they drop the green flag here today with 43 guys out there trying to make it happen. And Joey Logano, last year in the fall race here, he starts 18th today. He had that barrel roll that seemed like, I asked him about it, he said it seemed like it would never end, and it does rattle you a little bit. Physically, he was okay. You wonder if something like that, coming back to this track, can hang with a young driver that I have a little mishap, but it collects cars and I go airborne. Well, I think he can kind of shake that off. You saw Greg Zipadelli, his crew chief, reaching inside there, and those two guys, that's the last little bit of a pep talk he gets from him, at least without a lot of noise in his head. So I think he's going to do fine. We'll look for the Gibbs cars to be strong. Now, over the years, they've made some changes to pit road here, and still an issue entering pit road, but talk about the advantages, disadvantage for certain teams. Well, the guy who's on the pole right now, Martin Truex Jr., he's got the best pit position, and it's still going to be a difficulty getting on the pit road, and it's still a narrow pit road on top of that. Concrete is what it's all about. They say it provides a more consistent surface. Will it provide a consistent race? Let's head down there and hear those words we always like to hear.
Richard Petty won the inaugural 1969 race here at Dover and then went on to win 6 more times. Next Sunday, May 23rd, he'll be part of the first class inducted into the NASCAR Hall of Fame. And now for those most famous words in motorsports, the King, Richard Petty.
Gentlemen, start your engine.
The king of the Monster Mile, 400 laps, 400 miles, live in Dover, Delaware. Wherever you're watching, we're glad you're spending part of your Sunday with all of us for NASCAR on Fox.
Miles the Monster, symbolic of the concrete canyons of Dover International Speedway. The gray is the gravel of the horse track. That light gray, almost white, is the concrete of Dover International Speedway, where today NASCAR's best will compete for 400 laps. Hi, everybody. Mike Joy, Larry McReynolds, and Darrell Waltrip with you. Darrell, this is no longer a 500-mile endurance test, but the entry to turn 1, unlike the entry to 3, the exit to 2, not at all like the exit to 4. The groove starts at the bottom, it moves up, it moves down, it moves all around. How do you keep up with it all?
Well, and Mike, when your nickname of your track is the Monster, I think that in and of itself tells you a lot about what these drivers are facing today. But folks, when you go into the first turn, have you ever had anybody pull a chair out from under you? Well, that's what it feels like when you drive off into the first turn. Like somebody pulled the chair out from under you, and then you try to shuffle around and catch yourself before you hit the floor. That's down there. You try to catch yourself before you hit the wall. That's what these guys will be fighting all day long.
Larry, chances are what you do to that car at lap 100 is not going to be what it needs on your last pit stop with 80 or 90 laps to go. That, and how do you keep your driver in the sweet spot of the racetrack as this goes on?
Well, and the thing about it, because it's not a long race, you're not going to get that many opportunities to adjust on that car, but you definitely have to keep up with this racetrack, because just like the groove moving around, the way the car drives moves around. And you know what? Everything here happens so fast. It happens fast on the racetrack. It happens fast for the spotters, and it happens fast for that crew chief, because he has to make a quick, fast decision on what he's going to do to that car, especially on that last stop late in the race.
All right, we're about to see a fast 400 miles at Dover. Let's have a look at the Budweiser starting lineup for today's race. And as we do, let's check in with our pole sitter, who's a past Dover winner.
And Martin Truex, it's a DW in the Fox Sports booth. You got a copy there, buddy?
Got the DW, go ahead.
You know, Martin, you've got to win here, and you're on the pole today. This concrete must fit your driving style pretty well.
I've been fortunate enough to have some really good cars here in the past, nationwide and cup races. So just trying to take advantage of it today. The guys done a great job with our Napa Toyota all weekend. Made some changes to it last night. We weren't quite where we needed to be yesterday. So just wait back and wait and see what happens here. Work on it hard all day long. We got the best crew on pit road and a great pit stall. And that's going to be a great advantage for us today.
Yeah, you know, you haven't led any laps here since you won here in 07. Can you lead that first one today?
We sure hope to. It'd be nice to get them 5 points, but we want to lead the last one. That's most important.
All right, my friend, congratulations on the pole. Have a great day, and thanks for talking.
Yeah, thank you, guys. Have a good one up there.
Today's race is brought to you by Budweiser, the beer that starts with full flavor and ends with a crisp, clean finish. Budweiser, it's what we do.
Let's take a look at our FedEx Understanding the Race. These are the trends or the patterns of our 9 spring races here of NASCAR on Fox. First caution, average lap 18. Only 3 times in those 9 races did we make it past lap 20. The longest green flag run, average 118 laps. We at least see 1 to 2 green flag pit stops. Number of cautions, average 8 per race. We actually had 10 last year in 2009. The last caution period, average lap 346. The numbers say no lay race caution. The pattern of 2010 says, oh yeah, most definitely.
So far this weekend, Kyle Busch dominated the truck race but did not win. He thoroughly dominated Saturday and won the nationwide race going away. He's the only triple duty driver in the field. Watch out for that number 18.
Seems like those, green, white checkered finishes have really shaken up the way these races end up at the, who's going to win them.
Today's race, 400 miles, pit road speed 35, and the pit window within 85 laps. And the only car going to the rear, Regan Smith, who would have started 37th, has changed the transmission.
You know, Jeff Hammond talked about how tough this pit road is to get onto, especially on the green. A lot like last week at Darlington. When you get on pit road, it's tough, it's narrow. We inevitably see cars get together and bang a fender on pit road during pit stops.
It's a winding pit road with a curve at the beginning, and the commit cone well out past the wall. There you see the yellow line at the lower left corner of your screen, and there is the commit cone at the end of that.
And oh, by the way, the end of the wall is right there as well.
Pretty close. It's a beautiful day. Started out very cloudy and overcast. The temperature is expected to hit 70. The track temperature, now that it's sunny, has risen to 80, and about half the breeze we had yesterday. So let's go.
DW, we've already had our crab cakes. What do you say let's partake in a little concrete? But the thing I'd say, reach up there and pull those belts tight one more time.
Well, those crab cakes could be like dessert, Larry. We're getting ready to go racing here, folks. Flagman's got the flag here. He's getting ready to throw the green. Let's see, we're coming. We're coming. Be nice, guys. Be nice. Green flag in the boogity, boogity, boogity. Let's go racing, boys.
Outside lane may prevail as it has here at Dover for some time. Casey Kane has not led the last 5 Dover races. Now he's led this one.
And Martin wasn't able to win that, lead that first one. I know he's disappointed. Maybe he can fight back here on the inside, coming up off 2.
Just get such a good run on the high side, especially late exit of turn 2. Now Martin Truex Jr. has his hands full of Kyle Busch, that 18 car.
I think he may have just moved up a little bit to give Kyle a little room on the bottom there. Don't want to race too hard this early.
Mark Martin 4th, Jimmy Johnson, Clint Boyer, Ryan Newman, Carl Edwards, Allmendinger, and McMurray the top 10.
Even though this track is pretty symmetrical, the turns are totally different, believe it or not. Turn 1 is different than turn 3. The way you run both turns is totally different.
Jamie McMurray, A.J. Allmendinger side by side for 9th place. They've run a whole lap side by side with David Rudiman looking in.
You know, riding with A.J. Allmendinger right now in the 43 car looked awfully solid in both of those practice sessions yesterday.
That battle won't quit. It's the best one on the racetrack. And they have company. Here comes Rudiman, Hamlin, and Kurt Busch right on the bumper.
You know, we've run 5 laps, and in 5 laps, that's a pretty good time that you're going to start talking to your crew chief about what your car needs already in just in that short period of time.
Well, Darrell, I think the track is different from what they had yesterday in those 2 practices because we had the 200 laps of Nationwide Series race.
I thought Allmendinger was going to clear the number 1 of McMurray. It didn't happen. And now they've brought Jeff Burton into that battle. And Joey Logano.
Yeah, I honestly believe while they were running side by side that they have been holding these cars up behind them.
Well, you know what? When you're behind 2 guys running side by side, you got to be real careful because it's easy to make contact on that corner exit here. Got to give yourself a little escape room if something happens. Get around this joint in about 23.5 seconds. So things, as you said in the opening, they happen fast, buddy.
7th place, Ryan Newman, Carl Edwards.
You know, contrary to the run that Carl Edwards in that 99 car had at Darlington, they were tickled to death to get out of there with a 15th place finish. That group has actually been awfully good ever since they unloaded their car Friday morning.
You know, a guy I'm watching, Larry, in his car, he's got to be giving him a fit right now. He's got his hands full. Is this 24 car of Jeff Gordon. Started near the front, and he's drifted back to 17th spot, and the car is not very good right now. What are they saying, Krista?
Well, actually, Steve Letarte told me this morning they would not have early speed for the first time all year. They chose a setup that Jeff wanted, drivability over early speed. But right now, Jeff said his car is really, really tight.
Gordon started 15th, moved up to 14th, and as you said, Darrell, he's drifted back to 17th.
But that comfort thing is so critical at this racetrack because these cars will snap out from under you so quickly that if it's on the edge, you just can't hold on to it.
His teammate Jimmy Johnson, you're watching for Martin Truex. If Johnson started 5th, he's moved up to 4th, challenging for 3rd.
And you can see how much quicker that the 48 car is able to get back to the gas. I was really anxious, though, to see how that 56 car was going to run. As he told Chris Devoda in the pre-race, a lot of changes to that car last night and this morning.
That unpredictability that I was talking about and the comfort that you got to have. Concrete, for whatever reason, to me, always seem to be less forgiving. Once the car gets loose, it just snaps around and you can't control it.
Especially the speed you're running here.
So Johnson clears Truex, and that leaves him 2.6 seconds behind the lead. No Ford has yet been to victory lane. Casey Kane in a Ford has led every lap of this race, but Kyle Busch 1.3 seconds back and holding station right there.
Mike, one of the impressive things about Kyle Busch is that he's good pretty much everywhere they unload a race car, and this is one of his best racetracks because simply Dave Rogers said Kyle goes out and he likes to attack the track here. Typically he likes the car free, especially here at Dover, but right now he says the car way too free from the entry through the center on exit. Just looking ahead to what that first stop will be like change-wise for the 18.
But I think that's one of those things, don't panic. Let this thing get a little bit of rubber down in it. Make sure you don't jump the fence with your adjustments.
Casey Kane has the fastest lap of the race. He's led every one of 13 laps so far.
NASCAR Sprint Cup Racing on Fox, presented by Budweiser, is sponsored by Toyota. By Sprint, proud sponsor of the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series. And by Aflac. Aflac is insurance for daily living. Get to know Quack at noquack.com.
21 laps complete on the Monster Mile. Casey Kane, who finished in the top 10 in both races last year, has led every lap. But here comes Jimmy Johnson. He has passed Kyle Busch, and he is inhaling the leader by about 1/10 a second every single lap. Now, time for today's Aflac Do You Know Quack Trivia Quiz. Aflac lets you use cash benefits for daily expenses like gas. How many gallons of gas did the number 99 Aflac Ford Fusion use last year at Dover? Text your answer, A, B, C, or D, to 36888 and enter to win a replica helmet autographed by Carl. And you can read all the rules right here on the screen or log into foxsports.com/Aflac Racing for details. Let's catch back up with that lead battle and Steve.
Yeah, Mike, listening to Casey Kane in the 9 car, he says his car is pretty good. He said it's loose off, but it's turning very well. Jimmy Johnson in the 48 says I can put some wheel into it. Really responding well so far.
And Steve, that's what I'm seeing. Where he's just wearing that 9 car of Casey Kane out is he just drives to the bottom to try to get the lead from this 9 car. He just flies through the middle of the corner when you pick that throttle up.
And what Jimmy has a very comfortable car. When you can crank the wheel, when you can put wheel into it, that means you got the wheels turned left and you're back in the throttle, as you can see, driving right by your competition.
So Jimmy Johnson, our new leader, last year swept the 2 Cup races at Dover. Started 8th in the spring, pole in the fall. In the spring race, he led 298 laps, 271 in the fall. Both dominating performances.
Yeah, about 600 laps out of the 800 that were run here last year, he led.
You know, I know we talked to Jimmy Johnson in the pre-race, and as he said in his interview, it's the expectations of that 48 car, and they have not won a race since we went to this new rear spoiler 6 races ago. But we all felt like, we talked on our conference call, that Dover and Charlotte Motor Speedway would be a good measuring stick for where this car's really at, this team's really at right now.
And you just heard Chad there. I think what Chad is doing is just kind of confirming, hey, buddy, you know, as bad as people say things have been, look where we are.
You know, speaking of the rear spoiler, again, this is the 7th race since we've got rid of the wing, back to the conventional rear spoiler. Obviously, Joe Gibbs Racing, they're the ones been carrying the banner. They have actually won 4 of those 6 races.
This is an interesting group here that Denny Hamlin finds himself in. It's led by Tony Stewart in 11th, then David Rudiman, then Ryan Newman, then Hamlin and Jeff Gordon, Joey Logano, then Jeff Burton and Matt Kenseth. And there's a lot of movement within that group for position.
You know, I'm hearing the drivers talk about the rear spoiler. I think overall a lap around this racetrack, it's no different than the wing. But the rear spoiler has changed how the car feels getting into the turn. I don't think it's had a much effect getting off, but the cars are much tighter getting down in the corner. I bet if you did an average all the way around the track, the wing would probably be better on the straightaway, maybe the spoiler better getting into the corner.
Ryan Newman passes Hamlin for 13th. Jeff Gordon moves in. And at the front of the pack, as we mentioned, Tony Stewart in 11th. Krista?
6 straight finishes outside the top 15. Tony Stewart is looking for his luck to turn around. Right at the start of this race, well, it may have happened. He said his car right off the bat looking good. Hey, maybe jumping out of a plane is something he should do every week.
But you know, Krista, when you talk about it as he's about to crack the top 10, she mentioned those 6 races without a top 15. It's been almost 6 races without a top 10. That's the longest streak in his whole career that he's went without a top 10 finish.
Ryan Newman on the move. Hamlin repassed him, however. And now Jeff Gordon has a chance at the 39. Gordon on the low side. Newman gained a spot, gave a spot, then 2.
You know, something I'm noticing is the 20 car of Joey Logano there right behind Jeff. Joey moved up and let Jeff go in front of him. I mean, he gave him the line. Joey has since then just running his tire tracks. Young guy learning how to get around this racetrack from somebody that's led a bunch of laps around here, Jeff Gordon, a veteran.
Well, now Logano's going to gain a spot on Ryan Newman. Matt?
Mike, Ryan Newman's biggest concern coming in today's race was the fact that the track, what Larry Mack talked about, could be quite different than it was on Friday when it was 20 degrees hotter in practice. Newman says the car is tight and getting tighter from the center to exit. It's all he can do at this juncture. Tony Gibson, his crew chief, already already has a game plan for that first stop, calling for a wedge adjustment as well as air pressure change in the right front tire.
And Matt, where you have to be so careful with the car being tight, in other words, he's turning the steering wheel and the front wheels aren't gripping, is that's hard on that right front tire. This track in general is hard on the right front tire. It never gets a break here. When that car's not turning, it makes it even harder.
One change in the top 5 as we go to break. Clint Boyer has passed Martin Truex for 4th. "42 laps complete at Dover International Speedway. We've been caution-free. Jimmy Johnson took the lead from Casey Kane at lap 25 and has not looked back. Jimmy now owns a 1.6-second lead. Casey Kane remains strong with the Budweiser Ford in second. Working a little bit of traffic there. Kyle Busch, who dominated yesterday's nationwide race, running in third. Clint Boyer, just before the break, had moved up into the 4th spot. And our pole sitter, Martin Truex, has now dropped to 5th place.
You know, Mike, Mark Martin running in 6th spot there. Always keep an eye on Mark, because Mark sort of sets the pace as far as I'm concerned. He's just racing right now. He's racing amongst with himself. He's putting down good solid laps. Keep the leader in sight and know that there's a little bit left in that 5 car.
And I possibly think that might be what's going on with Kurt Busch in the 2 car. Started back in the 12th position. He's moved up to 7th, and I'm watching his lap times. He seems to be mirroring, or actually maybe a little better than our leader Jimmy Johnson in the 48.
A.J. Allmendinger running King Richard Petty's iconic Petty Blue and what was STP Red paint scheme to celebrate the King's induction into the Hall of Fame next week. Thanks to sponsor Best Buy for covering up the green with all that Petty Blue and Day Glow Red. It sure looks great to see the King's colors on the 43 this week. And Tony Stewart, who jumped out of a plane. Okay, maybe he was pushed, but had some fun with the Army Golden Knights parachute team this week. Stewart not in free fall. He started 16th. He has moved up to 9th. And Jamie McMurray just took over the 10th spot, fishing for a win here at Dover. And having started 9th and just fallen to 11th, Carl Edwards last year used how many gallons in his Aflac Ford Fusion at Dover of Sunoco race fuel? Answer is C, 100. Your mileage, I hope, is better. These cars get about 4.3 to 4.5 miles to gallon.
It may vary depending upon conditions.
Right.
And these cars hold about 19.5 gallons of fuel in the fuel cell in the trunk area.
There's David Rudiman running in 12th place, just ahead of Denny Hamlin. They have pretty much been nose to tail these entire 50 laps, working a little traffic, gaining a few positions, but not yet fighting among themselves.
Denny Hamlin here, we're riding with him there in the 11 car. He's running about where he started. He started 14th. He's running 13th. Not making a lot of noise yet, as we're well past halfway through this fuel run.
The same could be said of Jeff Gordon, who got up to 14th, back to 17th. Now he's up to 14th again. Krista?
Well, Mike, as I mentioned, this is a Plan B setup, and it's all because of turn 3 and happy hour. Jeff Gordon was so unhappy with the way the car was handling in the bumps in 3. They went to their backup plan, and Steve Letarte knew they'd probably have to sacrifice early. Here's what Jeff said on the radio.
I mean, I just don't know what to tell you. I'm sliding the back end, then I'm pushing the middle. I go to pick up the throttle, I'm a little bit tight, and just bringing the back end around. Step forward, step forward. We need more front grip all the way through the middle, but we can't get the back any looser in. I got it.
6th place. Kurt Busch moving forward. Mark Martin still running about the same lap times. Kurt picked it up a notch.
But listening to Jeff Gordon and Steve Letarte, that's the word, the key word when you're here, is grip. You're always looking for more grip. And what you've got to be careful, if the car's pushing or sliding the nose, that means the front wheels aren't gripping. You've got to do something to make those front wheels grip and not unhook the rear, and vice versa if the car's loose or the car's coming around.
Sam Hornish has hit the wall in turn 1, and caution waves for the first time today.
Clear right there.
I'd gotten a report.
Caution here, bring it on down pit road.
I talked about Ryan Newman. I got a report a little bit ago that Sam Hornish, the 77 car, his car was pushing. That abuses the right front tire. Looks like to me possibly he blew a right front tire.
Now he'll be right in front of race leader Jimmy Johnson coming down toward turn number 1.
You'll most likely
3 cars ahead, and there he goes.
You see that right front definitely went down as he entered turn 1 there, and it shot up the hill into the wall.
Hornish qualified well. He started 10th and is now a lap down 35th as he makes his stop under caution.
That caution was a huge break for cars like Dale Earnhardt Jr., Brad Keselowski, Montoya, our points leader Kevin Harvick. They were not that far out in front of our leader Jimmy Johnson.
He has pancaked the right side of that car really hard.
Yeah, you don't. I always say this. You just can't tell on TV how hard these cars hit that wall. But if you had a gauge up there, it'd be about like you know, somebody knocked the fire out of you with a ball bat.
And it's a long way from the bottom to the top of that racetrack, and you're running about 160, 170 when you drive down in the corner.
Now they have the hood up looking for right front suspension damage, and pit road is open. Here come the leaders.
I think this is pretty much a no-brainer call. 54 laps, 4 tires, I'd say, boys.
Krista?
Tony Stewart is pretty happy. He said, in fact, his car is so good on the entry that we can actually give some up there. We're that secure. Also good on the exit. The problem right now, the center, tight. Steve?
Krista, Jimmy Johnson in the 48 is happy with his car. The problem for Casey Kane there, you see in the middle, is that his shifter lever seems to have been broken. They're going to try to rig something up to help Casey Kane, Matt.
Clint Boyer will have to go out around the 56 of Truex. Slight chassis adjustment. The car just a tick on the tight side. They didn't want to over adjust on this 33 machine. Good stop so far. He's away.
Jimmy Johnson, Kyle Busch lead the charge off pit road.
But I could see Casey Kane in the 9. Once he left his pit box, he couldn't get the thing going and got bogged down. Then he got blocked in for the most part.
That's on pit road right there. Those guys running all over each other.
55 laps complete in the Autism Speaks 400, presented by Hershey's Milk and Milkshakes. Casey Kane had a lot of help on the pit stop, including fixing that shifter lever, but NASCAR now reports he had 8 men over the wall instead of the allowed 7. He was able to stay on the lead lap. Bobby Labonte took the wave around to get back on the lead lap, and we will restart with Jimmy Johnson choosing the outside against Kyle Busch, Truex and Boyer, Kurt Busch and Allmendinger, Stewart, Mark Martin, McMurray, and Rudeman, the top 10.
Well, the outside seemed to prevail at the initial start of the race, so I'm sure that's why Jimmy Johnson chose that. But boy, Kyle Busch, that 18 car, he wants nothing of it.
I would not let Kyle Busch underneath me going in the first turn for the lead.
Plus, you don't use conventional wisdom and Kyle Busch in the same sentence.
No.
Not very often.
I'd want to protect that bottom if I was Jimmy Johnson. When that 18 car gets out front, he is relentless.
4th place to Kurt Busch. Against Truex, here's Mark Martin battling David Rudeman. This is for 9th.
You know, the group that had an awesome pit stop that time was Tony Stewart in that 14 car. They had a great pit stop, and they had no issues getting on and off pit road.
Stewart now 7th. Look at how the 18 has gapped the field, leading Jimmy Johnson by 1 second and pulling away. Shifter troubles. Jeff Hammond.
Mike, whenever Casey had these problems, this is what we're talking about. This is the lift shift lever that makes these guys be able to go from 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. This aluminum handle is probably what broke on it. Somewhere around in this area, they had to come in, loosen these 2 bolts, and replace this stick to be able to allow him to carry on for the rest of the day's race.
Thanks, Jeff.
See that happen occasionally. Guys get carried away. They thin that thing down. It's weight, so they try to thin it down. Say, well, he doesn't need it that much, but they don't realize how hard a driver has to shift that thing when he's changing gears.
You don't figure how important it is. You don't have it there to use.
That's right. I've come in before and handed it to him. Here you go. Lighten it up some more.
11th place, Rudeman, Gordon, and Allmendinger passing Kurt Busch, or other way around, passing Kurt Busch back to regain 4th spot.
Fastest car on the track right now.
But definitely since this restart, A.J. Allmendinger in that 43 car, he's gotten past a couple of cars. He passed Truex Jr. in the 56 just a couple of laps ago, and then gets by Kurt Busch in the 2.
The King, Richard Petty, won here 7 times. Allmendinger trying to bring the King's paint job to victory lane for the 8th time.
And it was actually win number 199, just a couple of months before that 200th win at Daytona. He won the spring race here.
Back in 16th place, Ryan Newman has had his challenges today in the 39. Matt?
Mike, he'd been battling a tight condition with this race car, which progressively gotten worse and worse. Ryan had to change his line, start to run up the hill just to get the car to turn. He was running up in an area that didn't have a lot of rubber on the racetrack. Much more coarse, which caused issues on the inside shoulder of that right front tire. Not an issue with the tire manufacturer, but just because there was no rubber up there, and it was more user issue. They made some changes to the race car. Should help this car on this run, but that was the issue on the 39. Way too tight, and it showed on the tire.
Now, when we heard Jimmy Johnson say, could put some wheel into it, if you get too much wheel into that right front, that will create that problem as well. A little too much camber, leaned in at the top, eating that inside edge, and then turning hard on that right front tire, you can eat that inside edge off of it. You see here, that's quite a bit of wheel. When you get the right hand over the top like that, that's a lot of steering input.
It's David Reagan in 29th.
So that car is really, I'd say snug. It's putting a lot of pressure on that right front tire, but by the same token, it's all to the left. He's not fighting that car. It's not pushy loose.
Now, one thing that happened to David Reagan on that last pit stop is he's running back in the 29th position. He actually had a pit road speeding penalty, had to go to the tail end of the line before that restart.
Reagan's car looks really good, Larry. He's able to get off the corner underneath the other car and not get loose, and that looked really good. And
David Reagan in the 6 actually had one of the better Roush Fenway cars in yesterday's practice session.
96, flats all around.
Flats doesn't mean tires. Flats means if he's a 23.96, everyone else is 24 flat or 24.00 on their lap time. Could be a breakout day for A.J. Allmendinger.
I want to do a little update on Casey Kane in the 9 car. Right now, Casey is back in the 23rd position. Steve Burns had told me that under those caution laps right there, the first caution, they did not get accomplished what Jeff Hammond was showing. Darrell, the only way they're going to be able to do that at a 1-mile racetrack, they're going to have to stay out the first time, get right behind the pace car. That way they can utilize that entire time of a caution lap.
They may have given him a pair of vice grips. And put that pair of vice grips on what's still sticking up there so he's able to shift the car until they can get it fixed.
Now what we see there is the leg brace for Casey Kane. If the shot extended lower, that gear shifter would be, well, down below the bottom of the screen, so I can't draw it for you.
And for our viewers at home, the only time it's an issue is when you're getting up to speed. You don't shift here. You're in high gear the entire time. It's only leaving pit road or coming up to speed after a restart.
There you go.
Different view from Denny Hamlin's car, and there you are.
And what they could have done, if this thing broke off down there and there's some part of it left, they'll give you a pair of vice grips. They'll lock those vice grips on there until they can decide if they got time to fix it or not.
Kyle Busch has now led 14 laps to Casey Kane's 24 and Jimmy Johnson's 34 laps.
NASCAR Sprint Cup Racing on Fox is presented by Budweiser. Join Budweiser as we support America's troops with a $250,000 donation to the USO. You can help our efforts when you buy a Casey Kane Armed Forces die-cast car. Visit Budweiser.com for details.
81 laps complete at the Monster Mile. Kyle Busch's lead has now dropped to 0.4 of a second over Jimmy Johnson, and A.J. Allmendinger is closing in from third. Sprint brings you an inside look at what's happening now inside the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series. Quickest lap of the day. Casey Kane in the Budweiser Ford, 23.318 seconds. And the point standing leader remains Kevin Harvick, presently He'd be ahead of Kyle Busch by 32 points. And Harvick running in the 18th position. For more NASCAR stats, in-car audio, and live race radio, NASCAR Sprint Cup Mobile is at sprint.com/speed.
Boy, look at that 48 car. He has got some forward bite. Oh, we got conversation here between the 18 and his spotter. Spotter there, yeah. Where is he?
Outside.
But you're right, Daryl. He gets such a run off the corner. Steve, they may still want to be making adjustments on that 48, but they're pretty darn close right now.
Yeah, Jimmy Johnson just said, Larry, that he's gotten free all the way through the corners. And Chad Canals just said, watch that 43 car. He's coming. Matt?
And Steve, he is coming in a hurry. The car was loose over that first run. They made a slight air pressure adjustment to fix that. But AJ will tell you, you know the old saying, effort equals results. So sometimes he felt like maybe he was trying too hard as a driver to carry the race car that really wasn't dialed in to his liking. Each week they unload better and better as Tony Stewart works with the 33 of Clint Boyer. He says that it shows in the racetrack. That's why you're seeing this team take it up a notch as the season continues to progress.
Well, if you think about the teams that have had success here, Roush Fenway comes to mind. And certainly the affiliation that Richard Petty Motorsports has with Roush Fenway. And you also remember that his teammate, Casey Kane, qualified on the outside of the front row. This team is really sharing information very well today.
Sunday night, May 30th, under the lights. It's a twilight 600-miler on Fox, the Coke 600. At Charlotte Motor Speedway, Memorial Day weekend.
But we don't get next weekend off because it will be the Sprint All-Star Race on Saturday night on speed. $1 million to win, no points involved.
But I like what Bruton Smith said this week. Indianapolis and the Coke 600 run on the same day. Let the guys run up there earlier in the day and fly down to Charlotte and run there that evening. And if you can win them both, $20 million bonus.
Wow.
Yikes. That's worth trying for.
I would say so. Absolutely.
Even in today's racing world, that's worth trying for.
Kurt Busch just moved in front of Clint Boyer. That changes 6th place. And Joey Logano just passed Mark Martin for 10th place.
You know, when I think about Joey Logano in that 20 car, I think back to the wreck that he had here in the fall, early in the race. I would say of all my years of coming here to Dover, and of course we've been racing here since 1969, the worst wreck I've ever seen here.
I would agree. Krista?
Yeah, Mike, Larry, Daryl, it was a flip and a roll last fall. Joey's on a roll of a whole different kind right now. He just came on the radio and told his crew the car is pretty good right here. Hard to believe he's only 19 years old. He'll turn 20 next Monday.
Well, when I was a rookie, I used to say, what should I do? And they say, follow the guy that's won a lot here. And I mentioned this earlier. He is keeping right in Jeff Gordon's tire tracks. And I think he's really going to school on Jeff Gordon, and that'd be Joey Logano in a 20 car.
So who do you follow when you're 51?
You kind of set your own pace.
There you go. And
you're not a trendsetter, but you are a pace setter.
That's what Mark is doing right now, running 24.50s to the leader's 24.45.
Talking about a pace setter, I've been watching this little 16 car of Greg Biffle. Greg has a couple of wins here. Greg started back in the 24th position. He has moved up to the 12th spot. As we mentioned at the top of the show, Roush Fenway cars, Daryl talked about A.J. Allmendinger in the 43, the affiliation. This could be a day that we see a Ford go to victory lane for the first time in 2010.
Dick?
Well, Biffle messed up his qualifying run, Mike. Turn 1, first lap, he just went in way too hard, and that put him back in the 24th position. But McReynolds is right. Biffle's got a shot to win this thing. In fact, before the start of the race, he told me he intended to run the bottom and pass them one at a time until he got to the lead, and then he was going to take the checkered flag at the very end of the race. The car has been a little loose. That, by the way, is the name of his fishing boat, a little loose.
Matt, what's up with Kyle Busch?
Now his guys on the team are waving their arms frantically. He says, I cannot hear you guys talking to me. If you can hear me when I drive by, please wave your arms frantically so I know that you can at least hear me. So radio communication an issue on the 18.
Now earlier,
Gets a little bit free.
Earlier, he was calling to his spotter, Jeff, can you hear me? Because obviously he was not hearing the team communication. And that's not good when you don't have a whole lot of peripheral vision inside these cars.
It's going to take brains and brawn to finish up front.
Time for an AT&T race break. NASCAR on Fox. We are live in Dover, Delaware. 103 laps in, and Jimmy Johnson, your leader, going for his third straight win here at Dover. Kyle Busch led 25 laps. Pole sitter Martin Truex Jr. has not led a lap, fading back to 10th. As Jimmy Johnson in a mild slump for him the last 6 races. But Jeff Hammond, moments ago, Kyle Busch, who's moved up to 3rd here in the 18 car, having radio communication problems with his crew.
Yeah, they can hear him, but he can't hear the spotter or his crew chief right now, and that could be a big challenge for him, especially with pit stops, coming up here in the future.
So is there a different form? Is there a safety hazard here?
Well, I think they got to be concerned about that. NASCAR usually mandates you having a spotter communication, plus the fact, he will not know when to come to the pit road unless they're able to use either a signboard or unless NASCAR is willing to black flag it and let him know to come down the pit road. And Chris, right now we're seeing a lot of pressure right here being put on the 48 by the 43 car of A.J. Allmendinger running that red, white, and blue car of Richard Petty colors.
Yes, an honorary paint scheme. By the way, we're about 30 laps away from a green flag stop, something worth watching. Now, Jeff Gordon, it's early, having some struggles, but chances to make adjustments.
Yeah, he's made some adjustments here, and he's starting to move his way back up. He's up to 7th place right now. He's still got a lot of work to do as far as get back up to the lead, but much improved over the first time out.
We saw Greg Biffle now move into the top 10, so our pole sitter Martin Truex Jr. falls another spot back. And some unusual problems early at the Monster Mile. We talked about the shifter issue with Casey Kane, who started on the front row.
Yeah, he really looked like he was going to be one of the cars to contend with, and here we are riding along with him. All he's got right now is high gear because the shifter lever itself is broken off. They hope to be able to get a caution flag to get back down on pit road and finish changing it out. There we're inside the car with Casey, but as long as they stay green like this, it's not a big deal. But if he has to make a green flag pit stop, he's going to be in a lot of trouble.
Quick thought on Tony Stewart, currently running 5th behind Jamie McMurray.
They've made some adjustments since the start of the race. Also, he started way back in 16th, and he's already found himself cracking the top 5.
And Jeff Burton moving into the 11th spot as Truex Jr. continues to fade. If you want to cast your vote for the AT&T fastest pit crew of the year, the standings from last week, do it on your AT&T phone. Text the car number for the pit crew you think is the most valuable at each race to 2258, delivered by AT&T, the nation's fastest 3G network. Jeff Hammond, Chris Myers, let's rejoin after the AT&T race break. Darrell, Larry, and Mike.
Thanks, Chris. 109 laps in. Jimmy Johnson's lead 0.3 of a second because A.J. Allmendinger has challenged him twice in traffic in that number 43. And you see them passing the 83. Casey Mears is in that car this weekend. Wednesday, Brian Vickers, who would have come in here 20th in the point standings, was in Washington to make an appearance at an Army hospital, had chest pains, went to a local hospital where they admitted him and found blood clots in his leg and near his lung. They treated him and dissolved the blood clots. He was allowed to fly home Friday night. I spoke to Brian's manager, Don Rohr, through email, and he said he feels fine. He's very tired. He's meeting with Jerry Petty and specialists to try to determine the cause and what further treatment might be necessary.
I hope Brian gets well and gets back here quickly, but those blood clots are very, very dangerous, and you have to dissolve those, and you can't drive a race car while you're in that process. But I want to say about the 43 car, you know what? A paint job won't win you a race. A car number won't win you a race. A home track advantage won't win you a race. But when you put all those things together, it just lifts up the spirits and the morale of your team, and you really want to go out there and perform at a higher level than you normally would.
There are a couple of cars that do not want to see green flag pit stops. One of them we know is Casey Kane in that 9 car with that shifter issue, but we felt like the other one was Kyle Busch in that 18, but Matt may have resolved that problem.
And Larry, Mack, how many times through your years as a crew chief have you had a driver whose radio might have come unhooked from the helmet? They believe that's what's happened to Kyle Busch. A few moments ago, he came on the radio and said, "You guys have me now." And they said, yes, we do. Welcome back. Evidently, the radio just came unplugged from the helmet. All good communication now on the 18.
Well, how about this? Joey Logano underneath Kurt Busch. They fought each other a lap or two, and Logano's trying to take over that 6th spot.
Well, with the banking here, and you do move around in the seat a good bit when you go off in these corners. Remember, we talked about how you land. Well, that could have jerked the radio cord a little bit loose. He fished around in there and got it hooked back up, and now he's back in communication.
Meanwhile, Jimmy Johnson has stretched his lead over A.J. Allmendinger to 1 full second. Oop, rip it up. We don't need the black flag to get him to pit, do we? Okay.
NASCAR Sprint Cup Racing on Fox is sponsored by AT&T Rethink Possible, by Amp Energy. Go to ampup88.com this Wednesday, May 19th, to chat live with Rick Hendrick. And by the Home Depot. More saving, more doing. That's the power of the Home Depot.
Like that scooter? You can win it. Other cool prizes, including a VIP race weekend. Log on to ups.com/racing and enter for your chance to win. Jimmy Johnson is our leader, and Dale Earnhardt Jr., who has been lapped along with Juan Pablo Montoya among the notables. Junior's making a green flag stop onto pit road. Krista.
Yeah, Dale Jr. is just having a hard time holding on to his car. It was way too loose. He couldn't keep the back end under it. So when they come in, they're going to make a track bar adjustment to try to tighten him up.
Yeah, I mean, Darrell and I had been watching him, and he has absolutely had his hands full. This is about 8 to 12 laps early from what I think most of the leaders will be on pit road for green flag stops, but I think he figured he better hit pit road before he became the caution.
Yeah, most of these crew chiefs got what I call the magic wand. They kind of wave it over their bad handling car and they fix it. Let's see if they can help this thing.
Paul Menard about to go a lap down. And this is a view up the back straightaway. You see the cars climb up out of the corner, but also note the orange cones on the fence. You see these often at road courses, not very often at ovals, and it's 3, 2, 1. Just a little marker to help you pick your braking zone going off into the corner. And Dover has added these on both the front and back stretch.
And you see now why we call this like a roller coaster ride. See how you come up out of the corner here, then you got to go down this little belly of the track here, and then you go uphill again to fall off into the corner. It literally drives exactly like it looks. You feel that up and down. It's almost like elevation changes big time in the race car at 170 miles an hour.
Now let's point out that camera is fixed. It's the air from the cars whooshing by that's causing that shot to jump up and down like that.
Well, you know, Mike, you and I were on the Monster Bridge this morning, and the gentleman in there was telling us that when all 43 cars went under it, that thing would actually move with the wind in the air and the force that they would go underneath that bridge.
Reminds me of a story with Harold Kinder and Jimmy Carter, then governor of Georgia. I'll share it with you maybe during commercial. There's the Monster Bridge. And Montoya, who also got lapped, is in. Dick.
Big surprise that Montoya has struggled as much as he has here over the course of this weekend. This is one of his favorite tracks because he says it's got a lot of grip. Their problem, the car hasn't had the grip Montoya has wanted. More tires for him.
Elliott Sadler is also in. This is the beginning of green flag pit stops.
Comes the Biff, 16 car on pit road.
Sadler locks him up.
Well, he came off the racetrack late. A lot of the guys have been coming off much earlier in the middle of 3 and 4. He got off there a little late, was carrying a little more speed.
A.J. Allmendinger, the 43 car, has hit pit road, as well as Matt Kenseth in the 17.
Boy, Larry, did you see the 48 car? He was tail happy.
Biffle comes out of the pits. Marcus Ambrose has finished his stop. And there you see Matt Kenseth getting left side tires as Allmendinger approaches his pit. Matt?
Mike, on the first run today, A.J. was telling his team the car was just generally on the loose side. They made adjustments, fixed that. Now it's swung to the opposite direction. Now he's battling car a little bit on the tight side. So they're going to make a slight air pressure change on the 43.
Here comes Paul Menard, Kyle Busch on pit road as well, and Casey Mears, who's driving this week for Brian Vickers. Denny Hamlin is in. Casey Kane on pit road, Kevin Harvick, Mark Martin, and Ryan Newman. Matt.
And an issue on the 43 as we're going on to the 18. They had a lug hang. Meanwhile, chassis adjusted for Busch, still looking for forward bite on exit. His car is too much on the free side. His teammate Denny Hamlin someone is in, they're going to make a chassis adjustment as well. His car free most of the day.
Joey Logano, David Reagan, Regan Smith on pit road, Martin Truex, the pole sitter, Clint Boyer, and now Brad Keselowski and Robbie Gordon. Krista?
Joey Logano calling for 4 tires and no changes. The young guy really happy with this car.
In.
Oh, there's the 9 car.
Yeah, I mean, this is not what this group wanted to see. And you can only push the car for 5 pit stalls.
Most likely, Larry, he's trying to start off in high gear.
Bring it back. You got to bring it back.
Jimmy Johnson, the leader, is on pit road. Steve?
Mike, Jimmy Johnson just said the balance of this race car is determined by how I hit the rubber on the racetrack. I started out on this run on the loose side. No chassis adjustments for Jimmy Johnson. Krista.
Tony Stewart said his car is good, could be just a little bit better in the center. A small chassis adjustment to make that happen.
Jeff Gordon, Jamie McMurray also on pit road. Here comes Carl Edwards for his service, and David Gilliland. Kurt Busch comes in. He led a lap before coming in to make this pit stop in front of Steve.
Mike, Kurt Busch says I need the front to turn better. Air pressure adjustment out of the left rear, half pound in the right rear for Kurt Busch.
Scott Speed in and out. Jeff Burton, David Stremme entering the pit road at 135 laps and the second stop of the day. Krista?
Jeff Burton said his car is really not that bad. It just needs to turn a little bit better. He also added he's really not pushing the car right now because it feels really hard on the right front. The crew working on the car coming around to make the 4-tire change.
So we've now cycled around through all the cars that are on the track and running. Everyone's now made that second stop.
I believe what happened at 9 car, I think he probably tried to take off in high gear out of his pit box, stalled the engine, and couldn't get it refired. When he finally did, I noticed he was very slow leaving the pit road. So I think he's trying to restart and get out there in high gear so he doesn't have to shift.
Now watch Robbie Gordon in the number 7, the black car, trying to get on pit road. Couldn't do it. Couldn't get slowed down enough to finish off that turn.
That's too fast trying to enter.
Yes.
So he missed pit road that time, and then I think maybe the next time he got a commitment cone violation. So it just kept getting worse the further he went.
Frustrated.
After pit stops, Jimmy Johnson still the leader over Kyle Busch, A.J. Allmendinger, and Joey Logano. This week, get your Fox Saturday Baseball in prime time, and it's interleague play, beginning with the Yankees taking on the Mets, or the Cubs battle the Rangers, the Tigers against the Dodgers, or the Red Sox against the Phillies. Fox Saturday Baseball, presented by Budweiser, returns this week, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 Pacific, and catch This Week in Baseball at a special time. Check local listings for the game and start time in your area. A lot of activity on that green flag pit stop. Robbie Gordon with a penalty stop coming back in. A.J. Allmendinger taking a long time when they lost a lug nut on the right rear. Larry, let's take a look at what happened to A.J.
All right, you'll see the right rear tire changer, how much behind he was there. And you can see NASCAR pointing that there's a lug nut missing, so he's going to have to go back around there. Jackman did a good job there because A.J. signaled to leave the pit box. Is when he drops the jack, he kept the jack up to the right rear tire changer, went around there and installed that lug nut.
I'm not sure that they even put a lug nut on. It looked like they just turned it almost like they snugged it up with their hands.
Now, if you look there, we kind of have a gold standard time that we've set. That's the right side, the jack, and the left side, the total of 13 seconds. You can see there 21.2 seconds. And right now, Matt, he is third, almost 9 seconds behind leader Jimmy Johnson.
And what they've been talking about on the 43 team is the fact that they were very lucky looking at the glasses half full. It happened under green versus under caution. So, yes, they lost a lot of time to 4th place, but as things even out, if they had been under caution, they would have lost a lot of spots on pit road. So Allmendinger still definitely in it, running currently in the 3rd spot, where he was before the spot he was running 2nd.
About halfway between A.J. and Jimmy Johnson is Kyle Busch, who came off that pit stop, now 4.3 seconds back of the race leader.
You know, Krista talked about our little 19-year-old, soon to be 20, Joey Logano on that 20 car. Through the cycle of this long run, through the cycle of green flag pit stops, he has now moved into the 4th position behind A.J. Allmendinger to 43.
School's over. You know, it's time to go to work.
One of his buddies won a race yesterday. Brandon McReynolds, part of the group of field fillers, they call themselves. Brandon won down at Rockingham on the mile. The day before, Chase Elliott, Bill's son, won a late model race at Rockingham, proving to be quite the playground of second-generation racers.
You know what's so amazing about that win for Brandon down there at Rockingham was about 18 years ago he went to victory lane there, but wrapped up in a baby's blanket to the tune of about 5 months old with Davey Allison.
Jeff Burton and Jeff Gordon, Krista, they're running much like we left them a week ago at Darlington, chasing toward the front and in close contact with each other.
That's right, Mike, the Jeff and Jeff show. I want to talk about Jeff Gordon. I know a lot of folks are keeping tabs on him. The plan on that last stop was to free the car up a little bit. They made a wedge adjustment, but it might not have gone far enough because Jeff came on the radio and said 3 words, but they were all the same: plowing, plowing, plowing.
Well, and Jeff Gordon knows if that thing's plowing, that means it's abusing that right front tire. He knows you can't step across that line.
I heard that same thing last week.
Plowing.
NASCAR Sprint Cup Racing on Fox, presented by Budweiser, sponsored by FedEx. We understand you need reliable shipping options. FedEx. By DirecTV. Other TV providers can claim what they want, but DirecTV has the most sports, period. And by Chevy. Every model is backed by a 100,000-mile, 5-year powertrain limited warranty.
Earlier today, Denny Hamlin presented with this check for $285,000 to his foundation. He was the winner in our DirecTV head-to-head knockout. $285,000 to his foundation and a donation to the charity of all the drivers that were in our bracket.
Plus all the folks back in Nashville. He's going to make a contribution to the Red Cross over there to help all the flood victims. I love that. Thank you very much.
We understand also that Tony Stewart and Clint Boyer are going to Nashville for some flood relief work.
Now, Mike, let's take a look at these green flag pit stops. The 2 laps, basically including the stop, that's the fastest for Kyle Busch, Greg Biffle, Jamie McMurray, and Clint Boyer. Look how much time it cost that 9-car Casey Kane. Almost, 2 minutes and 5 seconds over that minute and 35 seconds. And the difference is now Casey Kane is 2 laps down.
Now here's A.J. Allmendinger. Remember, he had a lug nut loose on the right rear. They hand tightened it, and because the nut was in contact with the wheel, he was legal to leave. Hopefully all the others were tight and he didn't have a vibration, but whatever the problem, Allmendinger, who had such a strong run,
4 tires and fuel, guys. 4 tires and fuel.
And who challenged Jimmy Johnson for the lead, now he's going to fall way off the lead lap. Matt.
It's going to be a good effort here on the 43 guys over the wall. They're going to have a big recovery plan on their hands now as they go to work. AJ was reporting he had a vibration on the 43, Mike. Like you mentioned, the car
Turn 3, car in the wall, Matt. And the caution waves for the 47 of Marcus Ambrose, who got up into the wall between turns 3 and 4 and just pancaked the whole side of his Toyota.
Boy, what a break for Kevin Harvick, though, in that 29 car, who was just about to go a lap down.
I think the 43 wasn't so lucky, though. He was in the pit when the leader went by.
Ambrose in the 47 up the hill.
Right front.
Yep.
You just kind of know it when you see it. All that debris flying off the right side of off the wall. Some of that's paint. Some of it's race car.
But Darrell, back to the 43 car of A.J. Allmendinger. Right now he's showing 2 laps down. One thing we absolutely know he will do is stay out. So what he'll do, he should take the wave around and get one of those laps back, which will put him only 1 lap down. As good a car as he's got, that should let him stay up there in position to get that free pass should we get another caution.
I got to believe that right rear wheel, even though they let him go, they went back there. They didn't use a gun to tighten that nut up with. They just screwed it up with their fingers. I got to believe that was a vibration that brought him to pit road.
And quite a discussion in his pit because they thought they had beaten the pace car to the end of pit road. Now remember last week Jeff Gordon was on pit road when a caution waved, but because he was back of the start finish line, he only needed to beat Jeff Burton to the start finish line to stay on the lead lap. In this case, AJ was pitted way down near the far end of pit road. He had to beat the leader or the caution car to the end of pit road.
All right, what I'm seeing, it looks like Casey Kane in the 9 car is doing exactly what I was talking about. They come in with the leaders. They have all the time in the world to try to get that shifter fixed right here.
Krista.
Tony Stewart is in. He said the problem all year has been they start strong, but they lose the handle. A small adjustment. Steve.
Jimmy Johnson says, free me up a little bit. I'm on the tight side. Jack Canal says, small air pressure adjustment. Matt?
Kyle Busch has an easy exit, no car in front. They were talking about pushing in a spring rubber in the rear, just no forward bite still. The car very loose. A tear off the windshield, hitting the left in the back, and he is now away.
It had not been that long since we had green flag pit stops. One car I noticed looks like went with 2 tires. Todd Parrott, Matt Kenseth in that 17 car.
24 pulled a spring rubber. That really held him up on pit road.
And Darrell, you were right. That right rear wheel was loose on Allmendinger's car. That's why he had to make that green flag pit stop. From the pits, you have to go to a central refueling station to get those dump cans refilled with Sunoco race fuel. So some fellas get a little creative.
Hurry right back.
Carl Edwards got the free pass on this, the second caution of the day. Green flag. Jimmy Johnson, Kyle Busch, and Johnson takes off. It's Busch to fight with Joey Logano, his teammate, for second. Here comes Matt Kenseth and Jeff Burton in the top 5.
What a jump for Kenseth. What a great pit stop. I mean, he was outside the top 10. Here he is up there in the top 5 now.
But just remember what those guys did, went with 2 right side tires.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. did not get up to speed. He is 2 laps down and he's headed for pit road as Kyle Busch wants the lead.
He got that run on the high side through 3 and 4 where he's been so good. And while he's doing that, his teammate Joey Logano in that 20 car keeps inching into the picture.
All Dale Jr. said on the radio was something broke.
You know what? Looking at the Gibbs cars right now running first and third, Rick Hendrick said this past week, and I kind of snickered when he said it, that the Gibbs team had caught up with Hendrick Motorsports. And he said, as a matter of fact, they may have even passed us and lapped us. And certainly the sweep last weekend at Darlington, and here we are today looking pretty racy.
Here are your Toyota top performers of the race as Kyle Busch goes back out front. He's led 27 laps today. Trying to sort out Junior's problems under the hood.
But you know what, Kyle Busch, this is a typical, what if this was a green-white checker? Look where he would be. And the dominant car we know is a 48, but these restarts play right into his hands.
Well, that's what I'll be anxious to watch here as we get into this run. Should we stay green, how the 48 car has been so good versus the 18 on the long haul.
Now 2 lead lap cars made lengthy pit stops under this caution. The 17 of Kenseth was not one of them. He took 2 tires. But Greg Biffle had a long stop and Jeff Gordon had a long stop for adjustments.
Yeah, he had been complaining about his car not turning, sliding the front rails. And Chris Devoto was telling me during commercial break, they went ahead with a lot of laps to go, over 200, and pulled 2 spring rubbers out of the left rear, softens that left rear spring, helps that car turns through the middle of the corner.
Well, this tire has a little wee bit less stagger than what we've had here in the past, which means that tightens the car up. So you've got to soften that left rear spring up to make the car work.
12th place, Denny Hamlin going after Kurt Busch. And Martin Truex, Brad Keselowski looking on. 16 cars are on the lead lap. Some of the notables who've gone a lap down: Ryan Newman, AJ Allmendinger, Juan Montoya, Mark Martin. All 1 lap down as Jimmy Johnson comes battling back after Kyle Busch.
There's no question the 48 is better after they run a few laps. But based on what I've seen the last 8 or 10 weeks, you better be good for the first few laps, not the last few.
But look at that 48 car of Johnson, how well that car just goes through the middle of the corner. He's able to pick the throttle up, but right now Kyle Busch, the 18, keeps it wound up on the high side on the exit of the corner.
Johnson digging down low, has the lead and sweeps right up in front of Kyle Busch.
Kyle Busch reminds me of Earnhardt. But you know, he's gonna make you earn it. If you're gonna pass me, you're gonna pay for it.
You're not gonna roll over and give it to you.
All right, leader again, 48.
The But that was quite a move by Johnson, because he slid right up in front of Busch as if to say, I'm not playing with you. I've got the lead. I'm going to keep it a while.
Yeah, man, straight and smooth, buddy. You got the fans up here in Dover, buddy. Everybody was cheering over that. Good work.
Been a few races since the 48 team had anything to cheer about, the fans. Now, I've been watching these two guys here, Mark Martin in that 5, Juan Pablo Montoya in 42. Just a few laps ago, these guys are fighting to try to get the free pass, and you can see contact coming off turn 4.
Montoya had two contacted the wall on the right and Mark on the left. You can see damage on his left rear quarter panel.
Battling Carl Edwards, who is on the lead lap. Elliott Sadler making an unscheduled stop. He has a loose wheel on the right side, it appears. Oh, they're going to change forward. How about our points leader today? Kevin Harvick had a good pit stop. He started 30th, and he's moved up well, running in the 8th position.
What's amazing with that Dick Berger is he was about to get lapped when that caution came out just a few laps ago.
Well, this is not one of Kevin Harvick's best racetracks. In fact, in the past, he called it one of his worst racetracks. He was not good in practice, 28th, 21st, and 25th in the 3 practice sessions. But Gil Martin, the crew chief, and the rest of the crew has worked hard on this car, and on the last pit stop, they made absolutely no adjustments. And after he took off at race speed, Harvick came on the radio and told them, the car is good. He's got a weapon that could win here today.
Elliott Sadler is back in the race, and so is Dale Earnhardt Jr. 7 laps down.
Like this guy here, though, Kevin Harvick, and I like what he and Gil Martin are doing. Every week, they don't qualify so hot. But, boy, when it comes to the race and race day, they are on it.
Now, this is an important battle right here. We're riding with A.J. Allmendinger in the 43 car, pulls up on the 39 car of Ryan Newman. Remember, A.J. Allmendinger had to make that unscheduled stop before that last caution. He took the free pass as we anticipated. If he can get by that 39 car of Newman, that puts him the first car lap down. He'd get the free pass if the caution comes out.
Newman up the hill. And AJ may get the spot here. A little wiggle off the corner. Up close and personal.
And the thing about it, it's early enough in the race. We don't have that many cars on the lead lap right now. We actually only have 16. If he can get back on the lead lap, I think he could still get back in this thing.
I think he could. Allmendinger was one of 5 cars to take the wave around on that previous caution. And can he clear Newman? He cannot. Nope. Ryan Newman is hanging tough.
The Army of One is fighting back.
Well, they know what they're fighting for right now. They're fighting for that free pass should we get a caution.
And Newman holds the spot for the moment. Jimmy Johnson leads Kyle Busch by 1.2 seconds with 185 of 400 laps complete on the Monster Mile.
NASCAR Sprint Cup Racing on Fox, presented by Budweiser, is sponsored by Sprint, proud sponsor of the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series.
Jimmy Johnson, your leader. New second place car, Jeff Burton over Kyle Busch, David Rudiman, and Matt Kenseth. Now here's A.J. Allmendinger. He is now in the free pass position ahead of Ryan Newman, but not without a fight. Darrell, this was quite a battle, and it almost got ugly right here.
It did. As you can see, the 39 car Newman pushes up, makes just a slight little contact on the 43, but let me tell you what that did. That lit a fire under AJ, because he comes back after Ryan Newman here and tries to repay the favor.
And Allmendinger ended up getting the spot. He's 17th, Newman 18th, Keselowski 19th. Those are the first couple of cars 1 lap down in the free pass position.
And it doesn't matter what position they're racing for. They're racing each other for that position.
Martin Truex, your pole sitter, currently running in 15th. He is a lead lap car. Jimmy Johnson out in front of Jeff Burton now by 1.5 seconds. And as in the last 2 Dover races, Jimmy Johnson has led almost 3/4 of the laps today.
But I've been watching that 31 car of Jeff Burton, who moved into the 2nd spot. He's moved his car about halfway up the racetrack through the corners, and he's running times about 1/2 of a tenth to 1/10 of a lap quicker than the 48 car Jimmy Johnson, who's actually in clean racetrack right now, not fighting any lap traffic.
I like the way Jeff Burton races, but what they do with that 31 car is it's good at the end of a long run. So at the end of the run, he catches up with the leaders. They make pit stops, car's not all that great. He loses all that time right back.
But what they've got to do, talking about Jeff Burton at 31, they can't make mistakes on pit road. Yeah, they had the mistake last week at Darlington running over the air hose, but they've also had 3 pit road speeding penalties this year, plus 1 pitting out of the box.
And closing in on the leaders is David Rudeman. Dick?
And Rudeman's having a terrific run this afternoon, Mike. He started in the 13th position, currently running in the 4th spot. It's almost been a year since Rudeman has won one of these races, but they have got his car dialed in well today. On the various pit stops, it's gone from being just a little bit too tight to a little bit too loose. And let's remember that last year here in May, Rudeman won the pole, spun, and that cost him the race. And in the fall, talk about pit mistakes, he missed pit road, and that cost him the race after he qualified in the 5th position. So he's fast here, he just has to avoid mistakes.
He about had a bird's eye view of Kyle Busch, that 18 spin it out off the corner last time off of turn 4.
Rudeman trying for 3rd.
Boy, he's got it. I mean, he is really fast. He looks like Jimmy Johnson through the middle of the corner, able to really get after it.
Settle in driveway, bud.
We are halfway at Dover International Speedway. Jimmy Johnson with a lead of 1.2 seconds over Jeff Burton, David Rudeman, Kyle Busch, and Matt Kenseth. They are your top 5. How about a nice sunny May Sunday? Crab cakes and concrete crank them up.
We all know what the problem is.
Riding with Martin Truex, he's the pole sitter. Tony Stewart right in front. They're racing for 14th. David Stremme about to get lapped by the race leader, and hats off to that Bill Jenkins team, the 26 that Stremme drives for. They salute the Air National Guard on the car, and they say, we're not here to start and park. We're going to run all the races. We're going to run all day, give the best accounting of ourselves that we can. And Stremme just went a lap down, so that'll be 4. He is in 30th position. Dale Earnhardt Jr. lost 7 laps coming to pit road and making repairs. He's back out there, and the car looks reasonably up to speed. Krista, what was the problem?
Yeah, Mike, you saw the hood go up. Junior saying something broke. I talked to Hendrick Motorsports team engineer Scott Maxim. He said they thought it was something with the steering. Rick Hendrick came down. They had a little bit of a debriefing in the pit. Junior came back on the radio, and all he said was, I can turn left now.
He's 7 laps down in 33rd.
Turning left at an oval with a NASCAR Sprint Cup Series car is a beautiful thing.
Larry, let's talk about Matt Kenseth and his choice of taking on 2 tires at lap 166 when most everyone else got 4. It got him track position, and he's been able to hold it.
I was honestly, Mike, surprised that maybe more teams didn't try it, at least early in the race. So Darrell and I have been watching the scoring monitor. There's not a lot of give up. These guys had about 20 or 25 laps on their tires, and you know what? There's not a bigger gambler on pit road than Todd Parrott, the crew chief of that 17.
And we've been seeing this new tire that they've been running the last several weeks. It really is a very dependable long run tire. You don't have to have 4 fresh ones every time to go fast.
Martin Truex went past Tony Stewart, retook 14th position as Jimmy Johnson leads Jeff Burton by that same 1.3 seconds.
NASCAR Sprint Cup Racing on Fox, presented by Budweiser, is delivered by UPS. Log on to ups.com/racing to enter the UPS $100,000 trackside challenge.
Here's today's Build Ford Tough track facts. July 1969 was the first Cup race at Dover. Richard Petty the winner in a Ford. Today is the 31st race at Dover since it was concreted in 1995. Ford has 24 wins here, including at least one win in 5 of the last 6 seasons. Built Ford Tough.
That was a 300-miler. First 2 times we came here, they were 300-milers. Then they went to 500-milers, and now we're back to 400-milers.
New 5th place car, Kevin Harvick. Since we came back from break, Jimmy Johnson, Jeff Burton, David Rudiman, Kyle Busch, Harvick, then Denny Hamlin and Matt Kenseth.
We just saw A.J. Allmendinger a second ago in that 43 car. He's still about a half a lap down to leader Jimmy Johnson. But remember, he's 1 lap down, got one of his laps back, but doing the wave around. Still out there just ever so much saying, guys, please, we need a caution right now.
David Reagan just made an unscheduled pit stop, and that'll leave Reagan 5 laps down. You're the bug on the bumper cam with Allmendinger there. And here's Jamie Mack and Jeff Gordon fighting for 12th place. Steve.
Mike, Jamie McMurray's had a pretty good race car until recently, running a lot of laps in the top 5, but his car has gone from loose to really loose. Matt.
An update on our pole sitter, Martin Truex Jr., currently running back in the 14th position. Work in progress, going to drop it again. Green flag. Early on, he was tight. Then he said it was bouncing through the center of the corner and tight on exit. They've made a number of adjustments. Air pressure every stop, track bar every stop. They made a wedge adjustment. Can't quite seem to find the balance that this New Jersey native has been looking for, but they're not giving up yet. Still working on this 56 machine.
Larry, you chase this racetrack all day long, and sometimes you're just not chasing in the right direction.
Well, it's easy to go the wrong way, and it's easy to jump the fence here. And that's what I've been hearing with a lot of these guys is they were a little bit tight. They freed the car up. They got it too loose now, and vice versa.
Steve, how about our race leader?
Chad Canals just said, tell me about your car, Jimmy. He said, hard to complain, really. I'm surprised the guys behind me are keeping pace. I'm running as hard as I can right now.
That's what I notice about the 48 car, guys, is no matter who is running second, if they start to chew into his lead just a little bit, nibble into that lead, Jimmy picks it up. So he's sitting there with some pretty good reserve, I'd say.
And the 2nd place car, Jeff Burton, Krista, now 1.5 seconds back.
Well, Mike, they had gotten the car where they wanted it, so much so on the last pit stop they did not make any adjustments. But now Jeff is saying he does not have the rear grip that he had and needs from before.
Well, actually, I think this track is heated up quite a bit. And even though the concrete is not quite as temperature sensitive as asphalt, the sun has popped out. And I think if you were a little bit loose, you're maybe looser now.
Did you see Montoya coming off turn 4? You talk about loose. That's the definition of loose right there.
One of the things, if you look at our racetrack, look how black it is. Look how dark it is. That's a layer of rubber. And what happens is the sun really makes that rubber get hot and slick. And that's where your grip goes. And the guy that's got the shock package, spring package, all that, figured out for this kind of condition is the guy that's going to be going on to the bank. 48's obviously got
car in the wall, turn 3, and
47.
again, it's the 47.
And that will bring the caution, which is obviously the caution that A.J. Allmendinger, the 43 car, was looking for.
Deja vu all over again for Marcus Ambrose.
Another right front. Most time that's a camber issue.
Up. Go to the garage and get it fixed.
3rd car in line.
Just see him take off up the hill.
The exact same spot as earlier.
So this will be the 3rd caution flag of the day. Just to review the free pass situation, caution 1, there was no free pass because it would have been Sam Hornish, but he was the car that brought out the caution, so no free pass. It was Carl Edwards on the last one, and this time it is A.J. Allmendinger who fought Ryan Newman so hard to get in the free pass position. Allmendinger will get back on the lead lap Ambrose will go to the garage.
And I think another car that was probably glad to see that caution, Darrell and I just had talked about it. Matt Kenseth with just changing those right side tires. I think that long of a green flag run, they were starting to pay the price just a little bit.
Pit road's open. The pace car has them in turn 3. The very first pit stall this week was chosen by David Rudiman's team. Rudiman is going to come in 3rd. And as he comes to pit road, Dick Berggren's waiting on him.
And the only changes they're going to make to this car, Mike, are to put 4 tires on and a load of fuel. Rudiman says the car is very good, except early in the run with low tire pressure, the splitter is bouncing off the racetrack. Krista.
Jeff Burton told Todd Berrier it's definitely not turning as well as it was earlier in the race. The plan to free it up just a little bit with air pressure. Steve?
No adjustments for Jimmy Johnson. Krista, Chad Canals, the crew chief saying 4 tires, nice and smooth, boys, nice and smooth. Matt.
The first stop for Kyle Busch, they made a wedge adjustment. Second stop, track bar, going to go another chassis adjustment again across the back for Kyle Busch, trying to get this race car to tighten up. Just absolutely no forward bite, no grip on exit. He's away.
Tell you what, that 31 crew, Todd Berrier, that group almost beat that 48 car on that pit stop.
Jimmy Johnson by inches in the race off pit road. See just how close it was at the line with 226 laps complete in the Autism Speaks 400 presented by Hershey's Milk and Milkshakes.
NASCAR Sprint Cup Racing on Fox, presented by Budweiser, is sponsored by Nationwide Insurance. Call or visit us online for a quote today. By new Pennzoil Ultra with hyper-cleansing technology. And by Budweiser, the beer that starts with full flavor and ends with a crisp, clean finish. Budweiser, it's what we do.
It's Presidential Visit Day at Dover. Earlier, Ed Gorin, president of Fox Sports, was with us, and now we're joined by NASCAR President Mike Helton.
Hey guys.
Welcome.
Mike, you know, it was a great day this past weekend. May the 11th, we opened up the Hall of Fame. What a great honor for our sport to have our own Hall of Fame. And you're a future Hall of Famer.
Well, I don't know about that, but I got to tell you, you're right. Tuesday, sitting there during the opening day ceremonies, and then later that day, I watched the rebroadcast of Speed's 3-hour coverage of that, and it was just incredible to absorb the history that we're watching unfold of being able to tell our history and our heritage. And, you know, less than 38 years from now, we'll be celebrating our 100th anniversary. And that opening and this week's ceremonies will certainly be a big landmark in that 100th year.
Well, that was May the 11th, and it'll be May the 23rd, but a big day for NASCAR, May the 21st, next Friday, something that's become a huge annual event.
It has, and this is our 6th annual NASCAR Day. It's next Friday the 21st, and over that 6-year period, NASCAR fans have bought $5 pins and raised over $8 million. Wow. And so this year you can go to Office Depot or Bass Pro Shop, NASCAR.com/NASCAR Day, and get all the information and support it one more time.
All right, well, thanks for joining us. We're about to go racing.
Giddy up.
All right, back to work.
Like don't say boogity, boogity, boogity.
Thank you.
Jimmy Johnson, Jeff Burton, Kyle Busch, David Rudiman, Kevin Harvick, Denny Hamlin, Biffle, Kenseth, Logano, Boyer. That's your top 10 on this restart. A.J. Allmendinger got the free pass. He's back on the lead lap. One of 20 cars, or excuse me, 17 cars on the lead lap as we go to green.
Boy, Burton just did not go at all. He almost got run over from behind. He just couldn't get up to speed. Not sure what his problem was.
Jeff Burton falls in line in 4th behind Johnson, Kyle Busch, and Harvick. Burton coming back on the inside, looking for 3rd. Kyle Busch had a look for the lead. That didn't happen.
Mike, that's no big deal, except that's the kind of things that has been biting this 31 car. The little mistakes, you know, in the pits or commitment cone line violations, beating on pit road, and now that was a terrible restart.
But now Burton is up for 3rd, and Biffle is coming. Whoa, Kyle Busch just loosened up Jimmy Johnson. We'd heard he was not happy about the slide job Jimmy put on him earlier, and he just showed it.
No, and I think one of the things that this spoiler and the big fin on the back has done to these cars is made them not handle as good aerodynamically when somebody's tucked up under you.
Now Kyle Busch, the 18 car, is going to try the high side, try to get that run off turn 4.
But how many times are you going to say, this is a restart? This is Kyle Busch at his best. This is when he shines.
Jimmy holds his ground, and now at the exit of the corner, Kyle Busch takes off with the lead again.
It's almost like the 48 car was pinched down there and couldn't pick that throttle up and stay in it. Kyle Busch, the 18, was able to keep it rolling on the high side.
And you know who else? You know, Kyle Busch wasn't happy about the slide job. You know who else probably knows that? Jimmy Johnson. Might not try that again.
Let's have another look at that one, Darrell.
That's just all up under the back of the car there, and he just makes that car wiggle just from air. It's pure air.
It just takes rear downforce off the car, which is pressure pushing the rear wheels, the rear tires, into the racetrack. But here he comes fighting back again on the bottom side.
Johnson to the bottom, had a great run off turn 4, and he has the preferred line into the corner. He's cleared Kyle Busch.
Oh, baby.
And up he comes with the lead.
That's a clean slide job there. No, not all that close.
Plenty of room on that one. Meanwhile, that brings Jeff Burton right back into this battle. And Kevin Harvick has held off Biffle for 4th.
Nice job, new leader to 48.
I just cannot go those first 2 laps.
Yeah,
it's endless.
But you know, when I look at Kevin Harvick in that 29 car running in 4th, that's the reason this group that they're leading the points this year. They almost did the same thing at Atlanta a couple of months ago. Qualified terrible. They were terrible in practice, but they never gave up. Qualified 30th here, and here they're solidly in the top 5. Almost got lapped earlier.
But we heard the 48 say he just couldn't go over those first few laps.
Right.
He can fix that if he has to. If it comes down to a shootout at the end, up that air pressure, just so that's why his car is slow. It's real low on air. Once the air builds up, he takes off. But when it comes down to a shootout, they can fix that.
There's your front 4. Pretty equally spaced for the moment, Steve.
And Mike, that's exactly what Chad Canals just said to Jimmy Johnson. He said, don't you worry, we've got what we need for the long run. At the end of this race, we're going to be right where you want to be. Trust us.
Thanks, Steve. New 5th place car, Denny Hamlin. Now, Biffle had gotten up to challenge Harvick and Burton, but Denny Hamlin has had the measure of Biffle here.
Well, we've watched this 16 car, Greg Biffle. He's been pretty loose all day long, especially late exit. Denny Hamlin in 11 just took advantage of it.
Hamlin up for 5th now, Matt.
And Mike, polling a number of crew chiefs this morning, they all pointed to final practice that the 11 of Denny Hamlin was the car that really stood out. They expected him to yard the competition. Remember last year, he was running second, had a tire go down late, but they have really been fighting the handling very loose from the get-go. 2 stops ago, they made big headway. Now the car, if anything, is a little bit tight in the center at the start of the run, but they are really running well up to 5th.
You know, Mike, Larry, we're well over halfway here into this race. A lot of drivers are complaining that the track is going through some sort of a change, transition. That's a big challenge for these guys in the pits.
2nd place is closing up. Harvick has caught Burton. Burton is catching Kyle Busch.
You know, Mike, you asked me at the top of the show about adjusting these race cars. We're getting to the point we may only get a couple more opportunities to make adjustments on these cars.
Jimmy Johnson, fastest car on the racetrack. He is out in front of Kyle Busch by 1.2 seconds. Caution is out for Sam Hornish's spin, and the pit road is a busy place. Matt.
Wedge adjustment and right side tires already completed for the 18 of Busch. Right side's for the 11 of Hamlin as well.
Really not surprised what I saw there, Mike. With only 20 laps, you can see almost everyone went with 2 tires. The 2 cars I did see change 4 was the 29 of Harvick and the 1 of McMurray.
Now here's why we are under caution. Look way to the right of your screen. Here comes Sam Hornish.
Way back here, coming up off the corner.
Second caution of the day for Hornish. 4th overall, involving just 2 cars, Hornish and Ambrose. Pit on that caution. Ryan Newman gets the free pass, and Greg Biffle was too fast exiting. He goes to the back.
One thing I'm noticing, you just heard me mention the track going through some big changes. Rubber is starting to build up in the groove on top of the racetrack. Concrete, rubber builds up on top of it, kind of creates a layer. I think that's what these guys are dealing with, the big patches of rubber buildup.
And Darrell, I have to believe it's the hottest it's been this entire race, because about most of our clouds are gone over the racetrack and the sun is somewhat beating down on it right now.
Track temp started at 80. Now it's 98 degrees.
That's a lot. That's a lot of grip you lose.
Kurt Busch, winner of Thursday's Autism Speaks golf tournament to raise money for autism research. 1 in 110 children is diagnosed with autism, and Busch does not get going. Matt Kenseth on the outside does, and here comes a man named Johnson.
And here comes a man named Kyle Busch. 3 wide over in turn 2. That won't work, boys. Somebody's got to give.
Man, he got bushwhacked there, but he made it.
Jeff Burton tries to take advantage, and Clint Boyer in the 33. Great aerial coverage. Matt Kenseth has taken off, but what a fight for second. Johnson takes second. Here comes Busch. That'll be Kyle against Kurt for third.
Yeah, Jimmy was trying his best to get out of there. Those two guys are pretty aggressive drivers. I think he wanted to clear that mess and get going.
Now they single file it among the top 8 cars. First battle is Joey Logano and Kevin Harvick for 9th, with Jamie McMurray and Martin Truex. Add Tony Stewart and Jeff Gordon to that mix.
Now our leader Matt Kenseth and Kurt Busch in the 2, who's in the 4th spot, they have about 20 laps on their tires. Right now Kurt Busch, Steve, has his hands full of Jeff Burton in the 31 car.
And Larry, Kurt Busch, you see the 31 drop to the bottom. Kurt Busch has been complaining about his engine. He says that he feels like there's something wrong with the carburetor. He said that just prior to the caution that just came out.
That's interesting. Got a long way to go yet. We've got 147 laps to go.
Busch, Burton, Boyer. Pretty good battle here for 4th place.
You know, Larry, you can have fuel pickup problem. I know these guys stayed out and they didn't have that many laps, but because of the banking on the straightaways, it's easy to get a fuel pickup problem here. Actually, they starve the engine for fuel under caution.
Yeah, the banking here on the straightaways, as much as it is in the corners at some of the racetracks we go to, 9 degrees. Hey, that 11 car, Mike Ford, Denny Hamlin, they seem like they just keep chipping away, making that car a little better every time they bring it to pit road.
Yeah, look who's nose to tail. Boyer and Hamlin. Yesterday, that didn't work out so well, and they almost got together again.
He just hit him again.
There's bad blood there from yesterday's nationwide race for sure.
But I almost believe Denny Hamlin in 11 snuck up on Clint Boyer in 33. I think he got there so quick he almost didn't even know he was there.
Boy, I tell you though, Hamlin is definitely showing him the bumper.
That was bad blood fender to fender. They both climbed out of their cars yesterday kind of chuckling about what happened. As on a restart yesterday, Boyer didn't get going. He got turned around in front of Hamlin, who didn't release him. And then in the caution, under the caution, Boyer returned the favor and spun Denny Hamlin.
The 33 got a little bit loose right there in front of the 11. That's why that Hamlin got into Clint Boyer then. Juan Pablo is off the pace coming to pit road.
Well, what a long day it's been for this 42 car. Right now he's 2 laps down, back in 24.
And he didn't need this, Larry, because he's working trying to get himself back in chase contention and doing a good job the last 2 or 3 weeks, but this is going to hurt.
Yeah, he's now 3 laps down. Clint Boyer now out ahead of Kurt Busch. Denny Hamlin a respectful distance. Meanwhile, Matt Kenseth's mirror is filling up with Jimmy Johnson, and that will be the battle for the lead.
Well,
battle? It's not going to last long.
I think it was inevitable that the 48 car was going to run that 17 back down. As I mentioned, Matt Kenseth was 17. 20 more laps on his tires.
If I were Matt Kenseth, I'd be thanking my crew chief. He got me up front. He let me lead a few laps. Staying up here right now, I tell you, that's a great call on Todd's part, Todd Parrott.
On the top right of your screen, A.J. Allmendinger takes over 15th from Jeff Gordon. At the bottom, Jimmy Johnson takes the lead from Matt Kenseth. Meanwhile, I thought I saw some overheating from Montoya's car when he came to pit road. He has gone to the garage.
Yeah, he did have steam coming out of the overflow.
And Kurt Busch has been in the wall.
He's had 2 tires, or no tire. Oh, we got a car Jamie McMurray is smoking bad down the front straightaway. He's got a left rear tire down.
He was running in the 11th position with that one car.
He got a left rear tire down. I saw the car almost spun out with him.
Stay up, buddy, stay up.
We're still green.
Stay
It
up.
looks like all the cars will cycle past him, and he can get safely down to the pit. 2 more cars to go.
Come on down, come on down. Inside, inside coming.
And they're okay. We stay green.
All the way to the bottom. Come on, come on, come on.
So within 4 laps, both of the Ganassi cars have a problem.
Larry, there's something else wrong with that one car.
I believe, Dick Berger, and it may be the track bar that holds that rear end in place at the back.
Well, what's happened apparently is that they got a track bar problem on the number 42 Montoya's car. I looked at the tire on the left rear, the one that went flat, and you could clearly see that it had been worn through on the sidewall.
Well, this place is so hard on everything chassis-wise, and the track bar holds that rear end in place, and something broke on it.
Steve?
Mike, Jamie McMurray just says the transmission is gone or an axle is broke, and he does not have enough power to get back to the garage.
But it would do that. If the track bar breaks, that rear end housing is swinging left to right, and it probably tore up the drive shaft or the transmission because it's so far out of line.
Contenders fall by the wayside as Jimmy Johnson has opened up 1.4 seconds on Matt Kenseth. With Kyle Busch 1.8 back. Jeff Burton 3 seconds off the lead, and Clint Boyer 4.2 behind.
I mean, you couldn't orchestrate a better race for Jimmy Johnson. He's got a great long run car. We've had a lot of green flag racing. It's all working out perfectly for him.
Not so much for these fellows, because as Harvick and Kurt Busch battle side by side, here they all come. Logano, Truex, and the 99 of Edwards all want to be part of this battle, and then Allmendinger fighting back toward the front.
And all those are lead lap cars that we're looking at right there. All 6 of those cars from Harvick in the 29, actually back to Stewart in the 14. He's still on the lead lap.
That's a pretty big parade of cars right there that are all racing for position right now.
And I just keep watching the lap times on that 43 car of A.J. Allmendinger, right with our pole sitter now, Martin Truex Jr., the 56 back in the 11th. Allmendinger at one point was 2 laps down, and his lap times when he's not fighting traffic is not far off of what Jimmy Johnson in that 48's running.
133 laps to go. They were last in the pits at lap 246. Makes it a 2-stop race under perfect conditions. They'll have a chance to make it better. Sprint brings you an inside look at what's happening now inside the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series. As many of you are tuned in to see the race today on Fox or on NASCAR Sprint Cup Mobile. Clint Boyer with the fastest lap of the race, 151.9. He is our 5th place car. For more, check out NASCAR Sprint Cup Mobile at sprint.com/speed. And we have a new 2nd place car. Kyle Busch has passed Matt Kenseth and is now 2.6 seconds behind this man, Jimmy Johnson, who thoroughly dominated both races at Dover last year and is doing it again. We just saw Jamie McMurray go to the garage with what appeared to be a broken track bar, the rear end sliding laterally back and forth in the car. Jeff Hammond can show us more.
Yeah, Mike, underneath this race car, this is what you call the track bar. It literally holds the rear end, which is this yellow piece in front here, keeps it centered up, and that's where your 2 tires ride in between the body. What has happened? It looks like maybe this bracket on the left-hand side over here, because it's put such a load on it, has now broken away. What that allows the rear end to do is basically track itself back and forth with no kind of structure. So they're going to have to go to the garage area and make a replacement with that bracket and do the necessary welding or whatever to be able to get this rear end housing back centered underneath the car to be able to continue.
And Jeff, as you're under there and you see over on that right side all that bracketry that holds the track bar on the right side, they run these track bars now so low that they've had to support all this because it puts so much leverage on that whole thing hanging down there. That's why they've had to support all that. It wouldn't surprise me if more of the trouble wasn't on that side.
Yeah, it could very well be on the frame side on the right side or the back of the trailer arm on the left side. It could be either one. A lot of load back there in these corners.
When it's that low, you know, you got all that leverage.
Carl Edwards at 10th place. Right behind him, the battle was resolved in favor of Martin Truex for 11th over Allmendinger, Kurt Busch, Jeff Gordon, and Tony Stewart. They were 4 cars in a wad a lap or 2 ago. Now it's just a little wad. 2 cars.
Mini wad.
Now, Kurt Busch in that 2 car, we think he's fighting 2 things. I think probably having 20 more laps on his tires than most of these guys that he's racing. Plus, we know that he slapped the wall about 10 or 15 laps ago. He and Matt Kenseth here at lap 282, somewhere around lap 300 to 310, they'll have to make scheduled green flag pit stops because they did not pit that last caution. There you see Kenseth in the 17 car battle for 3rd right now with Jeff Burton in the 31.
And this is right now, Larry, if you're fighting an ill-handling car, just like we see right there with Matt Kenseth, this is when it really gets to you. You have been up on the wheel the whole time, and it's hot out there today, and it really starts to wear on you physically and mentally.
Now Harvick is quicker than either of these 2, and you see him closing in as Boyer, as Clint Boyer, as Jeff Burton, Boyer's teammate, goes to work on the 17.
You won't see Matt. Matt doesn't put up much of a fight. He knows he's kind of a little bit at disadvantage here. When they get up on his bumper, he'll move down, let them go.
Now, while these guys are battling for 3rd, 4th, and 5th, our leader, Jimmy Johnson, in that 48 car, his lap times have really slowed down, but he's been catching the back of the field here, and these guys aren't just rolling over and letting him drive by, because a lot of them are trying to stay 1 lap down or 2 laps down.
Yeah, he's past Travis Kvapil, now goes to work on Regan Smith, who's 2 laps down and about to be 3. And boy, Kurt Busch pounded the wall. And we have a caution. Turn 4.
That's got a right front down. I don't know if that was before or after.
And that's the 5th caution of the day. Now he was a contender, was falling back, didn't make a stop with everybody else on that last. He did stop on that. No, he did not stop on that last caution.
Stop.
Excuse me.
But we do know he had hit the wall earlier.
Yeah, here he is coming off turn 2. Let's see what happens here. That's slightly. I wouldn't call that a much of a hit, but this one, you can see the rubber coming out from the car. That's a cut down right front. But Larry, I don't know. Staying out and not coming in getting tires with 20 more laps than everybody else may have bit him.
Because he looked like he had a good top 5, top 10 car since the drop of the green flag. This is crew chief Steve Addington. Pit road will be open. This will not get us to the end of the race by stopping here, but everybody should be on pit road.
It looked to me like all that damage was done by the flailing tire, not by the wall, so hopefully his alignment is still okay.
These cars are so resilient. Just think about Sam Hornish's car. He's been in the wall a couple times, spun out a couple times. He's still out there racing hard.
Dick Berggren.
Matt Kenseth assumed the lead on the last round of pit stops because he didn't pit. Earlier, he gained track position by taking 2 tires. This time, it will be a 4-tire stop, and they're going to try to tighten the car up a little bit. Krista?
Similar situation for Jeff Burton, a 4-tire stop, also making the track bar adjustment they did not make on the last stop. Steve?
Small chassis adjustment for Jimmy Johnson. Krista said the car's pretty good, stable, and turning well. Matt?
2 stops ago, a miscue on the pit stop. They went the wrong way with the wedge adjustment. They corrected that on the last stop. Kyle Busch said back on lap 272. Now I finally have the back under me. And as he's out, they made an air pressure change on the left side tires, going 4 tires this time. They feel like they should really make the car come alive now.
Contact on pit road as Clint Boyer tries to get out from around Martin Truex, clips him, and then bangs another car. And oh my goodness.
I saw Hammond do that one time.
Hell, Jack's still on the car.
Yeah, says Mike Dillon, the spotter, and he will come back, have that removed, and serve a penalty. Mark Martin gets the free pass as things get just a little stranger and stranger here at Dover.
NASCAR Sprint Cup Racing on Fox is presented by Budweiser, the beer that starts with full flavor and ends with a crisp, clean finish. Budweiser, it's what we do. Live at Dover, 111 laps to go. Time for an AT&T race break. Jimmy Johnson leading Kyle Busch and going for his 3rd straight Dover win. The most recent pit stop, Clint Boyer, the 33. He came in 5th, Jeff Hammond.
Yeah, but he collides also with Joey Logano as he exits pit road. But He took something with him he wasn't supposed to, and that was the jack. It got hung underneath the car, and it made a trip all the way around the Dover Mile.
Now, you would know how to take that off yourself. There's a proper way to do that, having the real men work in the pits.
Well, you have to man up every now and then. You don't want to lose that jack because it means you have to come back down pit road, and you also run the risk of tearing your race car. Let me show you how you do this, folks, here. This was at Richmond a few years ago, and
that's
Gerald
you
got
down
ready
there.
to leave. That was me jacking the car. The car takes off, and I say, hey, come here to me. If you don't, I worked for a guy named Junior Johnson. He would have been real unhappy with me. That was Junior right there in the white shirt.
That's you with a mustache.
Yeah.
What's a few years ago, like 3 decades? What is that?
It was back in my younger days.
All right, we're getting ready to go green. Jimmy Johnson, 200 laps led. Amazing. And when he's led 200 laps, he's won 8 of the 9 races. By the way, if you want to text, he just showed you how it's done on the pits. Your fastest pit crew to AT&T. Match it against Jeff's selection. AT&T, the fastest pit crew of the year award, delivered by the nation's fastest 3G network.
We're back under green. And at the back of the field, Clint Boyer for dragging equipment out of the pit, and A.J. Allmendinger, who had come out of the pits in 10th, but was too fast exiting.
What I'm seeing is this 18 car is slowly but surely adjusting up and getting better and better and better. Now, we know he's good on these restarts, but that last time, they didn't gap Jimmy Johnson like they had in the past.
But how about that 17 car of Matt Kenseth? For the first time in a long time, he's on equal tires with everyone else. Everyone changed 4 tires that time.
Sad that Mark Martin was the free pass car on that caution, so Mark is now back on the lead lap. Things sort out a little. Kyle Busch, Jimmy Johnson, Matt Kenseth, Jeff Burton, David Rudiman, Denny Hamlin, Kevin Harvick, all single file. Then Martin Truex, the pole sitter. Now, coming into this race, both of the Ganassi drivers were within 60 points of making the chase. Now, both of those cars are in the garage. Here's Matt.
And Mike, the one car, Jimmy McMurray, he's climbed back into his race car. It's repaired. They're getting ready to go back out. Juan Pablo, you and Jamie were talking about your issues exactly the same. Could you believe that?
It really sucks, you know. Everybody this team, Ganassi, you know, these Chevy cars have been amazing, and we've been really good every week. This week it was a rough week for me, but I mean, we had the same second problem within 3 laps. It's crazy.
McMurray waiting to go back out as repairs are made to back in the panhard rod or track bar area of the rear suspension. Kyle Busch leading Jimmy Johnson. Johnson coming back, and here's the biff against Jeff Gordon for 10th.
And Jeff
Gordon, little contact there.
Well, whoa! That was so uncalled for right there. The biff got underneath of Jeff down here coming off turn 4, made Jeff wiggle a little bit, and that's just a little payback.
Well, while they were doing that, here comes Tony Stewart in that 14 car. Tony's still on the lead lap, battling this group for 10th spot.
There are 18 cars on the lead lap.
Anybody anymore? Oh no, he's been something going on there about the last 3 weeks.
And that was actually Tony Stewart asking his spotter about that little episode that just went on. You saw that 12 car Brad Keselowski go by. Brad is the first car lap down back in the 19th position.
Yeah, there's only 2 cars 1 lap down, Keselowski and Paul Menard. Scott Speed, Casey Kane, Regan Smith 2 laps down. Casey Mears, David Stremme, David Gilliland 3 laps down. Another 8 cars 4 or more laps back.
Fastest lap of the race, 24:18 right there.
Carl Edwards in 9th place.
Now that's the fastest lap for
the fastest lap I think that he's run.
Right, that's what
Carl Edwards in the 99.
Carl Edwards that he has run, not the fastest lap of the race. But that's encouraging if you're the driver and the crew chief. You're making progress. I noticed that this 18 car has gotten better, guys. The changes they made to that car over the last couple of stops has really improved the performance of that car. I think he's really happy with it right now.
And I've been watching that 48 car of Jimmy Johnson, especially at this end of the racetrack they're coming into in 3 and 4. He's starting to search around a little bit, just trying to find where maybe he's got a little more grip. That time he was right around the bottom. The lap before that, he was about a half to a lane up the racetrack.
And I think he sees the same thing, Larry. I think that all of a sudden Jimmy Johnson says, whoa, that 48 or that 18 car has improved considerably. I've been blowing right by him after a couple laps, not this time.
Now here's Joey Logano, who may have had some left front fender damage when Clint Boyer hustled out of the pits. They came and fixed it. Looks okay.
Yeah, they came back to pit road right before we got the one to go, so he restarted all the way back in about the 17th position, and now he has worked his way up 3 or 4 spots to the 14th spot.
You know what's the interesting thing to me, too, about the 18 car leading the race? This is the 3rd race that Kyle's been in this weekend. Truck race, nationwide race, and then again here today. Lots of laps.
And has led a lot of laps in all 3 races.
Clint Boyer slowing, not so much you'd call him off the pace, but certainly not as quick as he was before his troubles on pit road.
NASCAR Sprint Cup Racing on Fox, presented by Budweiser, is sponsored by AT&T, Rethink Possible, by the all-new 2011 Super Duty, built Ford Tough, and by Cobalt Tools. Cobalt, the next generation of tough tools.
309 laps complete. Spot, play, win. The more codes you spot, the more chances you have to win. Enter now at codespotter.com. Kyle Busch leads Jimmy Johnson now by just 0.2 of a second, as Johnson has been looking high, looking low, and trying different lines in an effort to unseat the leader. Matt Kenseth is 3rd, Jeff Burton 4th, David Ruderman 5th. As things sort out for the moment, let's check in with Chris and Jeff.
Yeah, Mike, with 90 laps to go, it's been Kyle Busch and Jimmy Johnson, the story of the race, but Jeff having some problems affecting guys that could be near the front. Casey Kane led 24 laps early.
Yeah, he broke the shift lever off, and because of that, he only had high gear. They had a green flag stop, and because of that, he lost 3 laps.
And not a factor, even though he started on the front row. Now, Kyle Busch did lead laps early, but had some problems himself communicating.
Yeah, he could not hear anything from the crew, and he was sitting there trying to say, if you can hear me, wave your arms. But here's a guy that's been fast all day. A.J. Allmendinger had a problem on pit road with the right rear, cost him a lap. He finally got back in the race.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. never really in contention, went 7 laps down with a steering problem.
Yeah, they got the car repaired. He's back out. But here's one of our latest casualties. Jamie McMurray broke a rear track bar mount, had to go to the garage area. He has now returned to the battle. He's 32nd.
And Clint Boyer with the jack connected to the car. This is not supposed to happen. He went in 5th, lost 7-11 spots.
Yes, he did. He had a pit problem right there. He got that fixed, but now we're back to the leader right there, 18 of Kyle Busch. He's leading the way.
And of course, he won in the Truck Series, the Nationwide. Now, last weekend, Denny Hamlin won, and he's currently 6th in the Nationwide and the Cup race. Could we get the sweep out of Kyle?
Yeah, he didn't win the truck race, but he did win yesterday in the Nationwide Series, and he could go ahead and repeat like his teammate if he can keep Jimmy Johnson behind him, along with the likes of Matt Kenseth in the 17 car.
All right, but Joe Gibbs Racing has won 4 of the last 6 races, and there's your Kyle Busch contribution. Jimmy Johnson, though, won 3 of the first 5 races, and there's your Hendrick Motorsports rep.
Yeah, but the key thing right now could all come down to pit road, Chris. Coming down, we still got one more pit stop at least to go before the end of this race, and whoever beats who off of pit road, that could be the deciding factor.
And we've already seen some unusual problems involving cars, pit stops, and particular drivers. To vote for the fastest pit crew, delivered by AT&T, text yours to 2258, the nation's fastest 3G network. And every week, we compare notes with Jeff. And Jeff, looks like you have Jimmy Johnson, Kyle Busch, Jeff Burton.
Those guys right now have been performing on pit road all day long. And again, it may come down to these guys who winds up winning this race today.
And that is your AT&T race break. Let's rejoin Darrell, Larry, and Mike.
Thanks, Chris. Jimmy Johnson hunting the lead. Kyle Busch trying to sweep the Nationwide and the Cup Series race, something that's only been done here once at Dover. Harry Gant, 1991.
I know a lot of tough guys. I've seen them race through my career. But when you say you can run a truck race on Friday, a nationwide race on Saturday, and come back here and run 400 laps and lead this thing on Sunday, you are Superman in my book.
And chances are, if he could find a late model race to race tomorrow, he'd be there running it somewhere.
Probably will there.
Kyle Busch has now led this weekend almost 400 laps, over 400 laps total.
We're not going any faster. They're just going slower. I think his radio just come unplugged. Got me? Yep. Welcome back. Welcome to the party, huh, Rod? Yeah, the party's up there, not here. The lever's gone.
Got one on the right rear. Go back to the right rear. Get a lug nut. Get ready. Let the jack down. Go, 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 go.
Fight it off. It's okay. We'll get this back.
That's your Budweiser Radio remix as we're 74 laps to go at Dover International Speedway. JP Montoya back in the race, as is Jamie McMurray. Both Ganassi cars back running. And the front five looks just about like it did. Kyle Busch ahead of Jimmy Johnson, as they both have been working a lot of race traffic. Matt Kenseth, the 2.5 back. Burton 1.7 off the lead, and David Rudiman 2.7 back.
You know, one of the things I never second guess Chad Knaus by any means, but the 18 has been working on his car every pit stop, trying to make it better, trying to make it better. I'm not sure if Chad and Jimmy maybe have been happy with their car and been afraid to adjust on it, but I think they can see now if they're going to get back up there and take the lead away from this 18, they may have to adjust on her one more time when they come to pit road.
Well, let's see who's quick. Let's have a look at speeds as they cross the line. Now those are lap speeds, not trap speeds at the start-finish line.
Well, on the clock, it's a 37 to a 48, 24-37 to a 48.
Harvick and Joey Logano up there at 147 miles an hour too.
Now, should we stay green, what we will see is one final green flag pit stop here at about 25 to 30 laps as we're seeing Casey Kane in the 9 car 3 laps down back on pit road.
And this is a very, very difficult pit road to get on under green.
Yeah, I think we've already seen that. It's a lot like the pit road at Darlington.
Exactly, Larry. Hard to get down and get on the pit road and not speed.
Kane was the outside pole sitter. So here's your leader. Your second leader, Kyle Busch. Second place, Jimmy Johnson. Toyota Chevrolet nose to tail. The first Ford in the race is Matt Kenseth, who came from 21st starting position and runs in 3rd. Jeff Burton having another chance to be in contention to win. He's come from 17th up to the 4th place. And David Rudiman began the day in 13th. He's within striking distance in the top 5.
Got a lead. Jimmy Johnson got a great run off turn 4 that time. Kyle got hung up behind the 78 car and opened the door for Jimmy to get there, but I don't believe he can make the pass on that 18 right now.
Just as we've seen all day long, Kyle Busch keeps that thing up about a groove on the exit of the corner, and he keeps her wound up. Now he brings it back to the bottom, pulls Jimmy Johnson in the 48 by about a car length.
Yeah, Regan Smith was in Kyle's way when he came off turn 4 in the 78 car. Cost him a little momentum, and Jimmy almost was able to take advantage of it.
But Darrell, we're 50 laps into this run, more or less, and it's about the time that in earlier runs Jimmy Johnson's car would have transitioned and become quicker than Kyle Busch's car.
Yeah, I'm still not convinced that Kyle has the best car. Jimmy Johnson's has a car that I think over the long run could still get up there and take the lead back. Here's what happened to the 18 car. He got hung up behind Regan Smith in the 78 and got a little bobble exiting turn 4, opened the door for Jimmy. But what I'm trying to say is the 48 is so good on the long run that I think he may be able to get him right at the end before they pit again, but I don't know if that's going to work out for him or not.
Here's Denny Hamlin. He's the 6th place car, 4.7 seconds off the lead. What a great month of May he's had so far. And there's our point leader, Kevin Harvick.
And this group started back in the 30th position. They almost went a lap down. We got a caution earlier in the race, and now they've worked their way back in the top 10. One of the reasons this group that they've had the points lead.
Carl Edwards did go a lap down early. He got the free pass on the second caution, got back into contention. He's the 2nd Ford in the race, 3rd overall.
And Mike, you talked about it in the pre-race. His teammate Greg Biffle in the 16 car back there in the 9th. That's 3 Roush Fenway cars in the top 10. We have not seen that a lot in 2010.
Biffle 7.5 seconds off the lead. In 10th place will be Tony Stewart. He is 10 seconds back in his Chevrolet.
Not the kind of run Tony would like to have, but based on his last 6 races, they'd love to come out of here with a top 10 finish. It's been a while.
How about our pole sitter, Darrell?
Not a bad day, you know. I mean, MWR cars are running pretty good today. You got Rudiman running 5th, and certainly sitting here in 11th place for our pole sitter today. Not what he would like to have done, but still not a bad day.
Casey Kane on new tires goes around Truex. Right behind Truex, Joey Logano in 12th.
Now Jeff Gordon, the 24 car, back in the 13th position, started in 15th. We got the report from Chris Devoda that back on the caution at lap 163, they pulled 2 rubbers out of the left rear. Then they put them back in. Steve Letarte told Jeff Gordon, "You've got what you've got now. We can't take the time to adjust on that again."
Ryan Newman 14th. Seems like Newman's Army car has been skirmishing with just about everybody in the field at one time or another. There's been a little contact here and there. And behind Newman, Mark Martin took advantage of the free pass on the most recent caution at lap 287 to get back on the lead lap.
And I know about 3 or 4 races that I can remember. Mark will be running about 15. Get a late caution, get a couple of green-white checkers, he ends up in the top 5.
Yeah, it's been several races he got that lap down and got the free pass. A.J.
Allmendinger started up front and in 8th spot. Got within a car length of the lead, and then things started to come undone, starting with the loose lug nut on the right rear. Allmendinger's been battling back. They told him to race out of the pits. He's pitted right now near the end of pit road, but somehow he got caught exiting too fast. He's still trying to overcome that. He's in 16th. And the last car in the lead lap with similar problems is Clint Boyer, who dragged the jack out of the pits and is 17th.
When you get back up front, just remember, that 18 car, he never rests. He's wide open all the time. Now, that 48 guy, he might be playing a little cat and mouse game like he did at Vegas.
59 laps to go in the Autism Speaks 400, presented by Hershey's Milk and Milkshakes.
NASCAR Sprint Cup Racing on Fox, presented by Budweiser, is sponsored by Napa. Napa Know-How. By Subway Restaurants, try the newest $5 footlong Orchard Chicken Salad. And by Sprint, proud sponsor of the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series.
Sprint brings you an inside look at what's happening now inside the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series. As you have a look at Dover International Speedway from Highway 1. Casey Kane, no speeding penalty there. Fastest lap of the race for the Budweiser Ford. And the biggest mover up 23 spots from where he started the day. That would be our Sprint Cup point leader, Kevin Harvick. For more, go to sprint.com/speed.
Come out the garage. It's broke again.
Yeah, it's broke again. You can see that rear end, how it's moved over to the left there, and he's broken that track bar again.
That is a hard item to try to fix in the garage area during a race. Very hard.
Our leader is Kyle Busch. Jimmy Johnson is right on him for the lead. Kyle won here in 2008, but the last 3 Dover races he's finished last, 23rd, and 31st.
In case you just joined us, back to the 42 car, they broke a track bar mount that holds the rear end in the center of the car. In fact, he and his teammate Jamie McMurray almost broke it within 3 or 4 laps of each other, the same piece on each of their cars.
I can't make up my mind. Obviously, is Jimmy Johnson? Is Jimmy Johnson playing a little game here with Kyle Busch, trying to lull him into a comfort zone that he really doesn't have? Or is Kyle Busch that much better on this run than Jimmy was?
And Darrell, I just believe with what might be a final pit stop coming within about 12 to 15 laps, the outcome of this race could get determined on pit road. But Johnson got a great run off turn 2 going down the back straightaway.
That's why I couldn't never decide. Was Jimmy really trying 100%? Or was he just sitting there following the 18, letting the 18 kind of think he had everything under control?
Very nice work, man. New leader, 48.
You called it, Darrell. Late in the run, Johnson would go back to the lead so that he can come down pit road ahead of Kyle Busch when they make what should be their final stop.
Well, let's assume it was green flag. Right. What the 18 can't do is let that 48 gap him very far. Because even though the 18's better on a restart on fresh tires, coming out of the pits even, he won't be able to catch him back in time.
Jimmy Johnson swept the Dover races last year. He started 8th in the spring, started pole in the fall, and of the total 800 laps, led nearly 3/4 of them.
Boy, he got trapped behind. He got trapped behind Vickers in that 83 car.
But Kyle is being he's being really nice to Jimmy now. He's actually, he knows Jimmy's a little quicker at this point. He's giving him the line to make the pass. That, when we talk about a new Kyle Busch, that's a new Kyle Busch. He wouldn't have done that a year ago.
Damaged cars of Kurt Busch and Dale Earnhardt Jr. back to pit road, both laps down. As we continue to follow this battle for the lead, they're going to lap past the Brian Vickers car, driven this week by Casey Mears. And again, a get well to Brian Vickers. Hope you're back with us soon. We talked about 1991, the feat that Kyle Busch is trying to equal by winning the Nationwide and the Cup race on the same weekend at Dover. When Harry Gant did it, this was a 500-mile race. And oh, by the way, Gant lapped the field.
Which he did several times, several places.
Can you say cambered rear end?
Well, that and can you say high, wide, and handsome?
Absolutely.
Because here then, he would run that car right out next to that wall, almost like a Darlington stripe.
And we still call that the Harry Gant groove, right up around the rim.
Now, guys, we're watching a battle for 4th place here. David Rudiman in the 00 just caught Jeff Burton in the 31. Rudiman's lap times, as Burton tries to pull the crossover, but Rudiman's lap times has been about as good as anybody on the racetrack right now.
Dick?
Well, David Rudiman's car has been best on the long runs. The place that they think they can gain is on the next pit stop. They have struggled coming off pit stops and restarting races, so they're hopeful that the adjustments they make this time around will get it done for them.
Kevin Conway, Regan Smith, Robbie Gordon have all made pit stops that will have them clear to the finish. They're all laps down as we are 40 laps from the checkered flag next time by.
And I'm watching these cars come off turn 4, and just like you saw Jeff Burton, there are some evil race cars out there right now wanting to get into pits and get 4 fresh tires on their cars.
Here are the leaders. 3rd, 4th, and 5th.
I think we're seeing the first of the leaders come to pit road. Here comes Denny Hamlin in 11, Tony Stewart in the 14, all scheduled pit stops.
So if we stay green, this will be the final stop of the day. Krista.
At the start of this run, Tony Stewart told Darian Grubb this is the best the car has felt all day. A chassis adjustment, you see the wrench going in, 4 tires. Matt?
And Denny Hamlin pulls to a stop. His car, that run, had gone back to the other side. The car had gone to the free side, especially through the center of the corner. Solid stop so far. Should be their final scheduled stop. Their teammate should be coming in about another 10 laps.
8th place Carl Edwards is on pit road. And again, scheduled pit stops among the leaders. Greg Biffle also coming in. Matt?
And since the leaders are starting to hit pit road, Mike, the 99 of Carl Edwards coming in a little earlier than they had originally scheduled. They were talking about 367. His car way free as well on that run. Dick.
Kenseth has heard that the number 17 is to be brought to pit road on this occasion. He said the car is just about perfectly balanced. The 16 has just made it stop. Bernsey.
Well, Dick, Jimmy Johnson comes onto pit road for what could be the last pit stop. This is where the tire changers like Lingerfeld and Jeremy West earn their money. Could this be a championship stop? Chassis adjustment, tires also for Jimmy Johnson, Matt.
And they only need 1 can of fuel. They're going to go 4 tires. That was the call by Kyle Busch. Chassis adjustment also completed by the 18. As Mike mentioned, like in a rebound here, it's going to be a great battle off pit road. The 48-18 side by side as the 39 hits his box.
Boy, when the leaders came in, everybody came to pit road.
But look how Kyle Busch accelerated before that 48 car. It looks like he's going to leave pit road with the lead.
Krista.
Jeff Burton also in this a little bit earlier. They had planned to come in about 372. They came in to get their 4 tire stops. Execution for the 31.
Jeff Gordon, Mark Martin, and David Rudiman are in.
Now, Darrell with 36 laps to go based on that last run, but it may not matter. The 48
fast
car
exiting Jimmy Johnson. That's huge.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And you're going to see him come right to pit road right now. It'll be a drive-through penalty. He won't have to stop. He just has to drive down pit road at 45 miles an hour. Now he's trapped by the 1 car of McMurray.
He'll have to follow Jamie Mack onto pit road.
Boy,
and that's double costly.
It just all came apart. And you know that last pit stop is the one with the most pressure, most intense that you're going to have all day.
On the crew and on the driver.
Yeah, both.
Now on the left of your screen, Kyle Busch trying to lap A.J. Allmendinger, who's just made his final stop. And the pass-through penalty for Johnson. He's going 45 to his left. Everybody's going 145 plus.
Well, and he just went a lap down the leader, Kyle Busch.
Here's a replay of it.
I think what you'll see when he sees the 18 car right here. Not sure if that's where the speeding was or not.
And Mike, actually, and you can see the 18 responding to that because they know that's their closest competition. Pit road speed is actually 35 miles an hour, but they give them up to 40.
We're told it was the third section from the far end of pit road when Jimmy was accelerating hard, getting out of his pit. That's where the violation occurred, and it's timed electronically. There's no subjectivity involved.
That's where the 18 car was. Right when he came out, Jimmy saw it was going to be close. He gassed it a little too much.
So Kyle Busch is your leader. Jimmy Johnson caught by a rare error. Matt Kenseth is second. Denny Hamlin, Jeff Burton, David Rudem in the top 5. 32 laps to go. Next weekend, the biggest stars in NASCAR compete in a winner-take-all invitation-only event. To see who's crowned the best of the best, the NASCAR Sprint All-Star Race live from Charlotte next weekend only on Speed. And the first feature event of the night will be the Sprint Showdown, and there's a lot of drivers who are hoping for a win here, so they won't have to run that showdown.
And if anybody thinks they need to do something to that All-Star race, they didn't see last year's. That was the most awesome All-Star race we've had.
And there's one of the guys that either wants to do it by basically racing his way in by winning this race, sitting back in the 3rd spot, Jeff Burton in the 31. But I'm telling you, that preliminary race, I think, will be the most exciting showdown that we've ever had there at Charlotte Motor Speedway, as well as Greg Biffle in the 16, Carl Edwards in the 99.
Who do you think they'll vote in, guys?
Yeah, there's one spot left at the end of the field for the fan vote. Good question. There's been some intense lobbying going on. As Bill Elliott says, we'll just have...
pressure. Keep digging now. You're doing good.
Well, he didn't say that. He said, we'll just have to wait and see.
You know, guys, we've got 25 laps to go. If you go back to my FedEx Understanding the Race here at Dover, our last 9 spring races, it says that normally our last caution period comes roughly with 50 laps to go. But if you look at 2010, it says we probably might have another caution. This right here is a battle for 2nd spot between Kenseth in the 17 and Burton in the 31.
Well, I don't want to beat a dead horse to death, but let me just say this. For 2 or 3 weeks now, I've been saying you cannot beat yourself. Jimmy Johnson just beat himself. Last week, Jeff Gordon and Jeff Burton probably beat themselves. You can't make those kind of errors and win races.
No, not when you have 13 drivers on the lead lap, most of whom have run error-free races and stayed in contention the whole time.
And in most cases, just like Jimmy Johnson, he had a fast enough car to win this thing. He didn't need to speed on pit road.
No.
Last week, Jeff Gordon didn't need to miss pit road entrance. He had a fast car. So taking fast cars and costing yourself wins.
Johnson is 17th, a lap down, and not even close to being in contention for the free pass if we get a caution. So the best race on track right now is this one for 2nd place, and Denny Hamlin is closing up on Kenseth and Burton as they battle.
Well, Denny Hamlin in that 11 car is closing up, and David Rudem in the 00 car is not that far behind. As right now, Kyle Busch is a little over 5 seconds in front of Matt Kenseth in that 17 car.
See that 37 that they're lapping past? Give Kevin Conway a call. He's battered that car today, but he has been running at the finish of every Sprint Cup race this year except one.
He's done a great job, but I just want to say something about Kyle Busch. Yesterday, I heard an interview he did. He said, if I win the race on Sunday, I'm going to be so mad about what happened on Thursday. He's thinking about the race he lost on Thursday. Not the one he won yesterday or not today. It was that one he lost on Thursday. It's going to make him mad.
He is 5 seconds up on Burton and Kenseth with 20 to go. Burton, the new 2nd place car. And Jeff Burton is quicker than Kyle Busch. It's only by hundredths right now. And 5 seconds is a lot of deficit to a race in 20 laps. But if there's anybody that's more expectant to get to victory lane in this series, no, it's Jeff Burton.
Yeah, right now, depending on when they catch traffic, he pretty much mirrors the times of Kyle Busch. Right now, he's about 5 seconds behind with 19 laps to go. But the 18 car is definitely starting to catch a lot of heavy traffic.
All right, here comes Kyle off turn 4 now. Let's just get a mark about where Jeff Burton is. Here comes Kyle. He's at the line now. Burton is coming. He's at the line now. So mighty comfortable lead that 18 car has at this point.
And Kyle Busch is finding a little extra as he works underneath Dale Earnhardt Jr. His last lap, 24.47. They're running about a second slower than their fastest laps at the start of the race. But aside from Carl Edwards and Tony Stewart, Kyle Busch, one of the quickest cars on the racetrack.
And Larry, we saw this guy drive so smart today. When somebody was faster than him, we saw him do it with Matt Kenseth. I saw him do it with Jimmy Johnson. Squeezed down out of the way and let him go on by. Didn't hold him up and didn't try to race him.
Well, I think this is a team and this is a car. Of course, they made a crew chief change with 3 races to go, moved Dave Rogers over there. I think they know the mistakes that kept them from making the chase last year. You just go back to Daytona in July. If he'd have just accepted that second place finish, he'd have made the chase, but he missed it by just a few points.
So Kyle Busch is your leader. He has been out front for 115 laps today. Jimmy Johnson's led the most laps. Kyle the second most. And as Darrell just showed you, he's got a 5.1 second lead on the black and yellow number 31 of Jeff Burton.
Whoa, and Burton is trying hard. You just see that as he comes off turn 4. He got that thing hung out.
Third is Matt Kenseth.
And of course, Todd Parrott, his crew chief, made a couple of gambling calls earlier, 2 tires, and stayed out. And here's Matt solidly up in the top 5 in that 17.
Fourth is Denny Hamlin, who keeps finding a way to get to victory lane. He may fall short of that today, but he had a strong top 5 championship contending run.
But this place has been terrible to Denny Hamlin,
yes.
So he'll be happy with this finish.
There's David Rudiman doing a great job today, man. Michael's got to be proud of the job that Rudy Tootie's doing. He's in 5th place, looking good.
Greg Biffle all alone on the racetrack in 6th. He's had an interesting up and down day after starting 24th. And Kevin Harvick is going to pad his point lead. Kyle Busch going to take a few spots, a few points from him. But right now he'd go out of here 69 points in the lead. Great day for Harvick.
This is going to be one of the better runs that Carl Edwards has had in the 99 car back in the 8th position. He's been good ever since he unloaded on Friday.
And you got to know, Larry, that Tony Stewart and his group got to be a little bit of a sigh of relief. Tony jumped out of an airplane this week. I think the way he'd been running, I know why, but today he's recovered very nicely.
This will be his first top 10 finish since we went to the conventional rear spoiler from the wing.
10th is Joey Logano. Logano got bumped up by Clint Boyer as Boyer was leaving. They were both leaving the pits, but he's recovered nicely. And Jeff Gordon has fought his car to 11th place.
Yeah, I think they got behind on that adjustment they tried to make. They took out some spring rubbers. That got him behind, and when they got him back in there, I think he just lost too much track position.
12th is our pole sitter, Martin Truex Jr. Just never could seem to lead a lap today.
And he told us that in the pre-race, that he probably didn't have what he needed. The good news is if he can maintain, he'll leave here in the top 12 in points.
And that's a big accomplishment for that 56 bunch.
Now, speaking of on the start, he couldn't lead the first lap. He did lead 2 laps later in the race. Ryan Newman is 13th in the Army car. He is the last car on the lead lap. There are 4 drivers 1 lap down. Allmendinger, Mark Martin, Clint Boyer, and Jimmy Johnson.
All right, crew chief, I ask you this every week. What are we going to do if we get a caution here with just a few laps to go?
Well, I can promise you there's a lot of calculating going on down there right now. If I'm that 18 car right there, if I'm probably Jeff Burton or Matt Kenseth, do you understand the words stay out?
I do. I wouldn't want to come in, not on this racetrack.
13 lead lap cars, 9 laps to go. And Jeff Burton, as we took you through the lead lap cars, unable to close that gap on Kyle Busch. 5.3, 5.2 seconds. That's where it stayed.
And the reason I say that, we've watched it all day long. There's just not that much give up on the stopwatch, even as hot as it is, with this tire combination that they brought here.
Well, all you need, if you're the leader, 18, all you need is for Jeff Burton and maybe Matt Kenseth and your teammate 11 to stay out, and you got it made. Now, if you sit out there and you're only man out there by yourself, I'd be a little worried.
Boyer way up the racetrack in turn 2, but he gathers it back in. No harm, no foul. I think he was just going way up the racetrack to get out of a fast closing Jimmy Johnson's way, because they are not on the same. They are on the same lap. That was for position, but Boyer let him go, and now lets the 17 of Kenseth go by.
But you mentioned Jimmy Johnson in that 48 car. Of course, what he's trying to do is become the first car a lap down. He's got to go by A.J. Allmendinger in the 43 and Mark Morgan in the 5. But his lap times, unless he's passing somebody, it's a couple of tenths quicker right now than Kyle Busch in the 18.
Well, I asked him in the pre-race, I said, did you ever heard a clank behind you lately?
Was that look?
He might want to check behind him one more time.
And I'm not sure he understood your question.
I don't think he did. I was talking about that horseshoe he'd been carrying around.
You think it fell?
I think it may have.
Well, he has dropped to 4th in the Sprint Cup standings. He was 2nd coming in and will leave here in 4th place. 5 laps to go for Kyle Busch. Jeff Burton has now dropped to 7 seconds back, and Kyle will move up 1 spot from 3rd to 2nd if things continue as they are.
And the biggest thing, this would be 10 more bonus points to add to your points total at the end of these 26 races. 10 points bonus for every win.
And it would mean that no other driver qualifies to race in the Sprint All-Star race next Saturday night at Charlotte Motor Speedway live on Speed.
3 to go.
See, Dave Rogers, his crew chief, his team told me after their win at Richmond, said, you know what, you might outrun Dave Rogers, but I promise you, you won't outwork him.
Well, what he needed was that win at Richmond. Once he got that, I saw a change in this guy. His confidence level shot way up as a crew chief.
All right, man, 2 to go.
Just get around here one more time, take the white flag.
Once the leader takes the white flag, then we've got a race.
He's halfway down the back. He's a half a lap away from securing a win.
Jeff Burton 7 seconds back, not going to be a threat. Harvick and Edwards battle for 7.
And here it is, the
white flag in the air for Kyle Busch.
I've never seen a flag so pretty.
It's got to be down in there, man. He's got to be exhausted. He's got to be.
Kenseth 8 seconds back. Hamlin 8.5, Rudeman 9. He unplugged his radio, plugged it back in, got back in communication with the crew.
Beautifully done, guys.
And in his 198th start, Kyle Busch scores his 18th Sprint Cup victory in the Autism Speaks 400.
You know, the ironic thing is he's the guy that made all the mistakes last year, and this year he's not making the mistakes. Other people are.
Burton 2nd, Kenseth 3rd, Hamlin 4th, Rudeman, Biffle, Harvick, Edwards, Stewart, and Logano the top 10. Jeff Gordon, Martin,
Thank you, buddy.
Truex, and Newman also finish.
Nice work, bud.
Also finish on the lead lap. Allmendinger a lap down with Mark Martin, Jimmy Johnson, and Clint Boyer.
And we did not think it was going to be a game changer, but Joe Gibbs Racing now, they've won 5 of the 7 races with this new rear spoiler that was put on after Bristol.
It is Kyle's 2nd Dover win, his 6th top 5 here in 11 starts, and his 2nd win of the season. But importantly for the point chase, it is his 6th consecutive top 10 finish. 3rd time in his career he has swept the Nationwide and Sprint Cup race in the same weekend.
This is a tough pit road right here to do a burnout on with all that banking.
We saw Greg Biffle crash here a few years ago.
Of course,
Coach
he does
Joe
have a little
Gibbs,
practice.
a leader by example. It's the 5th win for Joe Gibbs Racing at Dover. In NASCAR's 3 National Series, Kyle Busch led a total of 494 laps this weekend and picks up 2 checkered flags.
Unbelievable.
And he's mad about that race on Thursday.
Because he had that one won.
Oh, he had it won. I mean, it was a piece of cake.
I think we'll see the normal little bow.
I love when you get out of there. All that smoke. Give me that flag.
We'll be back with more at Dover International Speedway, where Kyle Busch has won the Autism Speaks 400. I think Kyle Busch melted all the M's with that burnout.
I say smoke him if you got him.
And he did. A winner at Richmond, a winner at Dover. Kyle Busch shows he will contend for the chase. He will leave here 2nd in the Sprint Cup standings, down to Matt Yoakum in victory lane.
A forgettable Friday in the Truck Series race, but a dominating Saturday and Sunday sweep. And then the problems you guys had today with your radio issues and then just trying to find a balance. What kind of statement does this send about how you and Dave Rogers and this team have really gelled this year?
It's phenomenal. You know, it feels really, really good. I can't thank the guys enough. You know, the whole M&M's Camry team did such a phenomenal job. And of course, thank Sprint, you know, the fans, Interstate Batteries, Norm Miller and those guys, and Marquis Jets, Gillette, again, Toyota and M&M's. I mean, we just can't say enough about all the people behind us. And, you know, it's fortunate for us to be in this position, and Dave Rogers working as hard as he does, man. I don't think you'll outwork the guy, but you might beat him sometimes here or there. And today we prevailed. You know, that's what it takes to win one of these deals. And we came out right there at the right point, and I think we were going to beat him. But I don't know, you know, 48 was really, really fast today.
Really satisfying knowing how everyone struggled today, just trying to get a handle on this racetrack. And you guys did as well throughout much of the day, but you got it there at the finish.
We did, man. We struggled a lot. You know, we were just so loose. I guess it's a good thing I could drive a loose race car so I can hang on to it that long. But I'm like, come on, man, tighten it up. Let's go. No, Dave did a phenomenal job. You know, he kept me going and kept my head in the game, and just being able to keep working on the car, trying to make it better. You know, we weren't the best in the beginning, but we were definitely a top 4 car today. And then we worked on it there at the end, and about lap, I don't know, 250, 260, we really started coming on. So, you know, it's just a testament to these guys and what all they do. Awesome stops on pit road. I think they won the race for us today. And, you know, it was just a great effort by everybody.
Congratulations.
Yeah, you got it, man. Thanks.
Another sweep in the record books for Kyle Busch.
Thanks, Matt. Not a dominating day. Jimmy Johnson led the most laps, but Darrell, what impressed me was that every single pit stop relative to the competition, that 18 got better, better, and better.
Yeah, well, what's impressing me, or actually depressing some people, is the mistakes that these veterans keep making. You know, on pit road mostly, spinning their tires on restarts. Just so many little things that are keeping Jeff Gordon, Jeff Burton, and now Jimmy Johnson from winning races. That's agonizing, man.
Larry, also of note, 2 of the 3 Childress cars and 3 of the 4 Roush Fenway Fords all had very strong top 10 runs.
Well, that's got to make that group, especially at Roush Fenway, feel awfully good, because that group, you know, they struggled last year. They looked like they were showing a little bit of spark at the beginning of here in 2010, and then it kind of fell off. But while we're talking about the Ford camp, a couple of cars I feel so bad for out of the Richard Petty Motorsports camp. Casey Kane had a car that led early. They couldn't catch a caution to fix that shifter. We knew it was going to be trouble if he had to make a green flag pit stop, and of course he went 3 laps down. And A.J. Allmendinger, 2 mistakes on pit road with a lug nut and then speeding. Looked like that kid was right there just poised to contend for his first win here today.
Could we take up a collection or maybe write letters to Richard Petty or to Best Buy or whoever it takes to keep that scheme on the 43 all year? Didn't that look terrific?
That may have been what the deal was here at Dover.
There's magic in it, I can tell you that.
Yes, there is. But as Darrell said, you can't beat yourself. A.J. Allmendinger's pit crew had that problem with the lug nut that was their undoing, and Jimmy Johnson also had a tough day on pit road. I think Steve Burns caught up with Jimmy.
Well, Jimmy, I heard you say on the cool-down lap that you got a really good launch coming out of the pits. Did you have any idea where exactly they caught you?
From Chad telling me on the radio, I guess the segment after our pit box. And I've been leaving our pit box start as I could each time, and there's some cues there from the spotter, and that we've kind of calculated where we need to check up to be doing the right thing. And evidently, I just got out of the pits much better than I had any other time. And because we got to my mark, I heard from my spotter, saw my lights, and I was conservative. I didn't want to make a mistake at the end, and I saw Kyle was going to beat me, so I just kind of gave up that final segment off the pit road, and I got nailed. So evidently, like I said, we must have launched much better than before off of pit road, and just disappointing, you know, to have the day end up like that. But great race car. I can't complain about our pit stops, how fast the car was. You know, we definitely had stuff working today.
Jimmy, I know you didn't get a chance to battle for the win, and that's ultimately why you guys race every week, but are you encouraged by the way that you guys ran? You talked about having a good race car.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, when I look back at the last few races, I know the results aren't what we want, but you know, we were competitive at some of the tracks. We had bad luck at some other tracks. Today we led a lot of laps and ran up front. So you know, it's a long season. There are tracks that are good for race teams, tracks that are good for race teams or bad for race teams. We knew coming here this would be a good one. We feel that next week in Charlotte it's going to be another good one for the 48 team, and hopefully we don't you know, leave a trophy behind there.
Jimmy, assuming you were not caught for speeding, had you figured out the end of the race and what you needed to do to beat Kyle Busch? Had you processed that?
I want to believe I did. You know, he was real quick on the restarts, and there at the end, you know, I think we did a little bit better job on the restarts, and it looks like they freed their car up so it'd run better on the long haul, and it took me much longer to get by him. So there at the end, it was going to be a dogfight. It was a lot of fun. I ran my guts out trying to pass him the run before that, and it's unfortunate we didn't have a chance to race them there at the end for the fans.
Thank you, Jimmy.
Yep, you got it.
And thank you, Steve. You know, since the spoiler, we brought that back. Jimmy Johnson has been averaging a 15th place finish. We joke about a slump for a guy who hasn't won in now 7 races. But the competitor, certainly Joe Gibbs Racing, has dominated, winning 5 of the last 7.
Well, I'm going to say a little bit like this. Jimmy Johnson ran well enough today to win this race. I know Kyle Busch wound up going to victory lane, and definitely Joe Gibbs has got their act together when it comes to this combination. But I really feel like that if it had come down to the head-to-head battle, we were going to be in for really a treat, because Jimmy Johnson clearly had the best car today. That's what we expect out of him. I think it kind of backs up the fact that this is a good racetrack for him, and he had a race car today that could have won, but they made a mistake on pit road. Not on the racetrack, but on pit road, and it was all because they got beat off of pit road. At the final pit stop,
the initial pit stop,
the 18 car beat them off pit road, and I think when Jimmy saw that, I think he tried maybe a little bit harder maybe than normal, and it got him in trouble. I mean, just by the smallest degree, but that's the way NASCAR plays the game.
And it's, again, electronic scoring there, and you 35 miles per hour, but they'll let you go somewhere into 40, so it was tough to tell when you watched.
I just want to make sure we point this out. It's very tough to tell, but at the same time, just because you're a 4-time champion, you don't get any special privileges.
Right. Well, it's impressive, because Gibbs, we're waiting for somebody to challenge Hendrick and Jimmy Johnson for the championship, so maybe Joe Gibbs has figured it out. You know, he's won a couple of Sprint Cup championships with different drivers. He's won 3 Super Bowls with different quarterbacks, and he's standing by live with our Matt Yoakum.
Chris, impressive day by Kyle Busch and the entire 18 team. And Coach, you've worked with so many special athletes, whether it be in the NFL or here in NASCAR. What makes Kyle Busch so special to you, do you think?
Well, I think a lot of people want to drive race cars, play football, throw balls, but only a few are gifted. I think he's gifted. And it's great for us to have him. The whole Mars family, I just really appreciate them. Everybody out there from Mars, they treat us so great. The team, everybody here, it's a total team effort, and I just really appreciate them and the way they support us. It was a great weekend for them, obviously. We had combos yesterday. Kyle got that, and then it was a big week for us.
And you look at the final results today, all 3 Sprint Cup teams impressive out of the JGR stable. In fact, even Rick Hendrick felt like that you guys had caught up to their domination.
I disagree with all those comments and everything. Hey, we're just getting started here. It's a long, hard deal. It goes week to week. I would say this, that Denny started off, and we had a lot to overcome there, fought his way back up, and that says a lot about him. Joey, today we got a ding in the front coming off on a pit stop, and it cost us some there, but he fought all the way back to 10th, I think, and for Home Depot and FedEx. Just really proud of everybody back at the shop that works on the cars. It's a total team effort at our place. I really appreciate everybody, and we enjoy these because you don't get many of them.
It's a team effort, but they're not team members. They're family members at JGR. Chris?
All right, thanks very much. Referring Rick Hendrick, and Darrell mentioned it in the broadcast, that, hey, maybe Joe Gibbs Racing has not only caught us but passed us, Hendrick Motorsports, and Joe Gibbs is wise enough. When it comes championship time, that's when we've seen Jimmy Johnson or Hendrick. Again, they've won 9 out of the last 15 championships, but it's nice to have, this is 1/3 of the way through the season now, a serious threat. We thought it might be Denny Hamlin, but Kyle Busch says, hey, I belong up there too.
I think we got to look at it, Gibbs across the board. One of these 2 teams, or both of them, will be definitely a contender. But I think when you look at today's finish, what kind of surprises you, look and see where the highest finishing Hendrick car is. If you want to consider Tony Stewart part of the Hendrick camp, I mean, he's way back down in 9th position. So, I mean, even Jeff Gordon, Jimmy Johnson, they didn't have the results that they were looking for. Even though Jimmy ran well, as a whole, he was the best of the Hendrick cars today.
Meanwhile, Kevin Harvick remains the points leader, and even though he didn't start, he was 30th. He worked his way into the top 10 to maintain that points lead. Let's check in with Kevin Harvick.
Kevin Harvick with a 7th place finish today. You guys show up to win, we know that, but discuss the weekend, discuss today's race and where it fits in the big picture.
Well, I think big picture it fits well for us because, as everybody knows, Darlington, Charlotte, and Dover are probably our 3 biggest struggles, and the month of May has always been tough for us, and so far we've got 3 top 10s in it. So just got to do that one more time at Charlotte, and then we'll go back to being comfortable at the racetracks that we like going to. And everybody on Shell Pennzoil Chevy's doing a great job, and
They know coming in that my mindset, I'm trying to be more focused and more positive on these types of racetracks, knowing that our cars are better, that we're going to have better days. So all in all, it's worked so far.
Kevin, we're 12 races in, 12 weeks in. You've extended your points lead a little bit. So knowing that these aren't your best racetracks, does that help? A day like today where you do finish in the top 10, which almost feels like a win.
Yeah, it does feel like a win. I mean, we ran up front for, most of the day. Got up as high as third there just racing. And for us, it's just one of those things where we have to keep doing what we're doing. And every week that you run good somewhere that you don't think you should, you gain a little confidence.
Kevin, heading to the All-Star race and then to the 600, is there anything in particular that you, this race team, have done to improve your chances there?
I think our cars are just way faster. We got to get a little bit better on pit road, and obviously you still want to obviously continue working on your setups and things that you need to do to go forward to make your cars faster and better. But our cars are just a 180 from where they were last year, and it just makes my job a lot easier, and you can adjust on them on pit road and do the things you need to do to be competitive.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thanks.
Thanks, Steve. And Kevin with a 69-point lead over Kyle Busch. So Kyle moves up into second. That's his highest points position so far this season. Jimmy Johnson slips down to fourth, followed by Hamlin and Gordon. And you see that Martin Truex moves into the 12 spot. This is the Chase 12. Dale Earnhardt Jr. falls out.
Yeah, Chris, I mean, we're going to see this battle, this ebb and flow. We see Tony Stewart, he moved up a little bit closer. You've already talked about Martin Truex Jr. jumping into the top 12. But what I'm seeing here with a lot of this battle going on for the 12th position, I'm looking at the top. Kevin Harvick continues to put good numbers up and put points on the board. What it might allow him to do is start going after wins now, not worry so much about points. I think wins are the things that they need to work on.
And wins for Kyle Busch, 2 of the last 3 races, the largest margin of victory this year. 7.5 seconds over Jeff Burton. We'll hear from Jeff Burton and also from Denny Hamlin when we continue live from Dover, Delaware, where Kyle Busch is your winner on Fox. Jeff Hammond, Chris Myers, and finishing up our post-race coverage here in Dover, Delaware. And Kyle Busch, who led 131 laps, pulls into victory lane, but the race dominated by Jimmy Johnson, who led more than 200 laps. And the unofficial results as we check Jeff Burton, his best finish of the season, winding up second. Denny Hamlin, 11th or better now in his last 5 races. David Ruderman tied for his best finish this season. Joey Logano, remember he had the flip here last year, so a nice top 10 for him, part of that Joe Gibbs Racing.
Yeah, you see Jeff Gordon there. He wound up 11th in our pole sitter. Martin Truex Jr., he came home 12th.
Jimmy Johnson finishing a lap down, that miscue, speeding, exceeding pit road. Guys like Casey Mears in for Brian Vickers. And again, we send our best out of the hospital after discovering that blood clot. Dale Earnhardt Jr. went down in a hurry with some steering problems, but didn't look like he had a car that was going to contend.
No, but he didn't have a car that contend, but they did get him out and able to get a finish there. Jamie McMurray, who had a pretty strong car. Early in the race, he had rear end problems as far as the track bar, and he wound up 32nd, 46 laps down.
Jeff Burton is standing by with our Chris Devoto.
Well, contending once again, Jeff Burton. I got to know, how much were you hoping, though, for that caution to come out to close that gap on you in the 18 in those closing laps?
The way things are going for us late in the race, I don't know if I wanted a caution or not. I was, the track is so rubbered up that if you ever got out of the groove, you just, all but wrecked. It was just crazy how much rubber's on the track and made it really hard to pass. And he was better than we were there at the end, so I was probably just wanting the race to get over.
But you guys have been asking for execution over the last few races. Do you feel like you guys did execute today?
Yeah, I think we did. I think we got everything we could today. There was one run there. We had a really fast car. We were faster than everybody. And then, but for the majority of the race, the 48 was better than us. And then the 18 got dialed in there late in the race. So we weren't quite as good as those guys. With a little luck, we could have won. But we probably got a little more than we deserved. But we second to fourth, fifth is I thought what we should have gotten. We got second. So we're on the good side of it.
Thanks, Jeff.
Well, David Ruderman, you ran in the 5th position for much of the tail end of the race. How much fun was it to have that happen this afternoon at Dover?
Yeah, it's been great. I mean, we haven't had a whole lot to smile about all year. It's been pretty dismal. We've been running really well. Just we haven't been able to close the deal. But I had a great Aaron's Ring machine all day. The guys had great pit stops. And there at the end, we were just a little bit too tight, and that was the tightest we'd been all day at the end. But all in all, having a 5th place finish with the way our season's been going, man, it feels really good.
course, you had a 5th place finish at Daytona. And just looking at you, you look as if you drove about 50 feet instead of 400 miles. Are you tired and just putting on a good act?
No, I mean, I actually feel pretty good, and I can only attribute that to the guys who, making the car ventilate real well and get me some air in there, because usually a lot of times you got to pour me out of one of these things. So I feel pretty good, and we'll go on to the next one, see if we can have another top 5.
Good job today. Congratulations, David. Thank you.
Well, Denny Hamlin started 14th, finished 4th, but I know why you didn't win. This race was on a Sunday.
I'm willing to take my chances on Sunday races, but it's a great overall day for our FedEx team. This is our worst racetrack by far, and if we can come out of here with the top 5, that's a step forward in what we need to do to win the championship. So, this was all about working on a setup for the chase, and I feel like we're halfway there. We're not quite there yet.
You may have just answered my question then. Is this more like a win because you're looking ahead to the fall, and to come to one of your worst tracks and come away with the top 5, does that bode well for championship hopes?
I hope so. I hope that's what it means. But we're a little off at the beginning, but we're in the teens. We weren't in the 30s like we usually are, and we just kept working at it and getting better and better. Me as a driver, I've got to get better at working traffic. I just lose so much time around other cars, and so as much as we got to get the car better, I need to get better myself.
Well, he matches his career best at this racetrack, 4th.
Well, Matt Kenseth just getting congratulations from crew chief Todd Parrott. How important were the calls he made during the race? The 2-tire call and then stay out.
Yeah, it ended up being real important. I mean, our car was in mid-pack. We're about a mid-pack car. In the front, we're about a top 5 car or something like that. So that worked out really good. That 2 tires really got us our position. We lost a couple spots and then hung on 7 or 8 spots farther than we were running before previous to that call. So they did a great job on pit road, great job in the pits. Make great adjustments. That's the best we were as that second to last run. It wasn't good enough to win, but it was the best we were, and looked like we were going to finish 3rd or 4th. So that was a good day for us.
Just listening to the two of you guys during the course of the race, it sounded as if you were on exactly the same page with every pit stop.
Yeah, I'd say it went pretty smooth. We, we started off a little bit, I thought, and we were able to adjust it and make it the best it was at the end of the day, and that's important. You have to take what you have and make the very best out of it you can for the end of the day. And there's been a couple weeks we haven't been able to do that, get the right set tires on at the end or the right adjustment or what have you. We're here, he made all the right calls, we made all the right adjustments in the pits to get the car as good as it was for that last run.
And Matt Kenseth did all the right stuff behind the wheel to finish 3rd this afternoon. Congratulations.
Thanks, Dick. And, of course, Miles the Monster. 2 guys took it to the Monster today, in Kyle Busch and certainly in Jimmy Johnson. But the Fords, 3 Fords finishing in the top 8. Greg Biffle had his best finish in the last 7 races. But I want to go back to Kyle Busch when we documented in the race that there was a failure to communicate in the sense.
We have that every night.
Right. But with his crew, and there wasn't the panic. And we saw that the week before. He seemed to handle it with professionalism, stay calm and in control. And it certainly paid off for a guy who worked his way back to the front and won the race.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the fact that he was already thinking about what they could do to make sure they didn't mess up on the pit stop. Hey, have NASCAR black flag me when it's time to come to pit road. And NASCAR would have probably done that for him to try to help him out. We're taking a look at our winner there, Kyle Busch. But the other thing that impressed me when he was talking to Matt Yoakum was he knew about the awareness of where he was on the racetrack in conjunction with how many laps in the race. Like 250, 260, we made this adjustment, and the car did this. He really, I think, is aware of his surroundings and what's going on and what they're doing in this race car. He's pretty savvy when it comes to being behind this wheel and being the kind of field general you'd like to have.
Yeah, racing more than 800 miles in one weekend, you get plenty of experience in getting the 2 wins there. So 2 weeks from Sunday, we'll be at the Coca-Cola 600 in Charlotte at Lowe's Motor Speedway.
In honor of all of our men and women overseas fighting for our freedom, 600 miles, reach up there and pull those belts tight one more time. I love this American.
Coca-Cola 600.
Promotional considerations provided by leader of the most laps has won just 3 of 12 races this year. for Kyle Busch. That is a sweet sound because Jimmy Johnson dominated. A quick recap, Richard Petty, the king, who won here 7 times, inaugural member in NASCAR's Hall of Fame, got everybody started. Jimmy Johnson, who led 225 laps early, taking the lead from Casey Kane, who led 24 laps. But Kane had some problems with the shifter.
Yeah, he broke a shift lever on pit road. Lost 3 laps because of making the change. Never was a factor.
And Kyle Busch, you addressed moments ago, Jeff, the communication problem with his team, but stayed calm. They were trying to say, just hang in there, we'll work through things. Kyle then took the lead from Jimmy Johnson at lap 233. Now, Clint Boyer, when they say hit the road jack, they don't mean to take the jack with you.
No, he actually brought a jack off of pit road, which is illegal, had to go back to pit road.
Lost 10 spots, more problems. Jimmy Johnson, this may have cost him the race, speeding, leaving pit road.
Yeah, he got caught right in this section here. I think he saw 18 beating him out, and in the end, 18, he prevailed.
Kyle Busch, his second win in 3 races, moving up to second in points, and the celebration continues for the 25-year-old in victory lane. Meanwhile, Jeff Gordon, who did not lead a lap, but has led quite a few this year, is standing by with our Dick Bergman.
Well, Jeff Gordon, a decent run today, but your fans have seen you finish second a total of 8 times since winning in Texas last year and leading over 1,100 laps. How frustrating is it for you to come so close to victory and not get it?
Well, today we struggled all weekend, really. So, we've got this one checked on our list of tracks we got to come back. Really, we got to qualify better. I don't know if we were that bad if we could just get some track position. We just weren't very good in traffic, and so it was certainly a great team effort by our DuPont Chevrolet because we weren't real happy out there, running in the back like that. It just goes to show, when the car's fast and we've been running the way we've been running, life's a whole lot easier. And it just seems like everything's easier. So we'll go to work on it and make sure when we come back here we're a lot better. And now we go to Charlotte for a couple weeks, and I think we're going to be really good there.
Was there anything that consistently troubled you over the course of the race today, or was it a variety of problems?
Yeah, the racetrack, every lap, every corner. We just we would take off there and struggle on new tires. Then it would come in really good, and thought, all right, here we go. We're going to go to the front. We'd catch somebody and just stop. It just seemed like it was really hard to pass today. And you got to be careful what you wish for. We've been trying to talk Goodyear into laying rubber down the track, and it laid so much rubber down that it actually made for new challenges where it's kind of a single groove racetrack. So it was challenging, tough for everybody, but we're glad to stay on the lead lap and at least come out here with a decent finish.
And now 2 weekends in a row off to Charlotte, one of his very best racetracks.
Thanks, Dick. So Jeff Gordon has led 709 laps this year. That's the most of any driver. Still no wins, hanging in there in points. But even the sound of his voice, he sounds a little, disheartened, if we can word it that way.
I think he's probably a little bit disenchanted because they didn't perform like I think he expected here in DuPont's backyard. I mean, I think that's the big thing. There's a lot of rumors about DuPont possibly, going away from Jeff Gordon or not being as prominent. I think all those things combined, he wanted to come in here and show these folks, you need to stick with me because I'm good as I've ever been. And I think today it just didn't quite work out that way.
There's a track he's won. Jimmy Johnson has won here, but it was Kyle Busch's day. Coming up on Fox, The Simpsons, followed by The Simpsons, The Cleveland Show, Family Guy, and American Dad. And then on Saturday, we have kind of a soccer-baseball doubleheader, and it's baseball under the lights prime time. Among the games, Yankees, Mets, some will see Red Sox, Phillies, Tigers, Dodgers, as well as the Cubs, Rangers. Note that primetime special start time at 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific for Saturday. Major League Baseball and the All-Star race in Charlotte under the lights. You'll see that on Speed. And again, 2 weeks from today is the Coca-Cola 600.
That All-Star race, the way I'm looking at it right now, Chris, it's either cash or crash.
And the Monster Mile, Kyle Busch, some think he acts like a monster sometimes with all that driving talent. It's good to have kind of a bad boy do well, as Kyle Busch did today here at the Monster Mile.
Gentlemen, start your engine.
20 leaders, 8 different lead changes. We only had 5 cautions. The points leader, Kevin Harvick, wound up 7th. And Kyle Busch, the winner in victory lane. For Jeff Hammond, I'm Chris Myers, our entire NASCAR on Fox crew. We thank you for watching. We'll see you on Fox 2 weeks for the Coke 600.